Alright, chat, we are going to get started in a second. I am still tweaking the volume a tad. Quite... I don't know, I'm not sure if I should say excited or jittery or just... a lot of feelings with this finale. This is weird, I haven't had a finale in years with a series. I'm trying to think besides Adastra. Like a legit finale, not just like, you know, cutting off a series or like one-offs or, you know. Oof. First one here, awesome, awesome. Yeah, it's been a while. I'm mostly on Twitch now with my series, and it's definitely a lot smoother there. I was just setting up the YouTube stuff, and yeah, it was a bit clunky at first, but I'm here, I got it. I'm also gonna try and adjust my mic. Is it gonna fall on me? Hopefully not. Still figuring out exactly where to put it. So this is the definite ending. Sorry. So is this the definite ending? Like there will be no more updates? Supposedly so. At least path A and B. I don't know what ever happened with C, D, E, F, G. I've kind of been beyond those. I'm assuming those ended a while back because they seemed like stories that would go off the rails a little more for their endings. So it seems like those ones would be over, but I'd have to double check on that. Or you'd have to double check with like Password VN or going to the Patreon posts for Password. Link in the description, by the way. I did make sure that happened. Originally the title was something else like Dean Reveal or whatever, but current bit rate is lower than the recommended bit rate. Oh. Well, that's always great. Hopefully I can adjust that. I don't think I can midstream. Oh, I can. Can I? Watch this like magically make it better. Yeah, so these are the pre-stream shenanigans, kind of like how I have my D&D pre-campaign shenanigans. This will hopefully ease the tension a little because I know it's been quite a suspenseful lead up to this. At least episode 37, jeez. I do it ended with a 7. Yeah, but that won't be... Oh, what happened? Message got redacted from Maestro. What happened? When password is blah blah blah, Nintendo Switch. Yeah, thanks, Bob. I think this is Sir Bob, Billy Bob Joe. I think this is all the same Bobs. I was talking with Bob earlier, who shout out to Bob for really helping me out. It is Sir Bob the Marvelous on Twitter, I think. I am going to get this right, I swear. I am sorry, I keep messing this up. Yeah, I hope it's on the Patreon. It is. Oh god, I opened up another window by accident. Don't worry, we should get started in like a minute or so. Maybe that guy named Bob. I know there's a Bob. Nope, not that one. Well, Bob, I'm sorry. I keep forgetting every single time. I know who you are. Anyway, we might as well get started. I'll get started in like a minute. And I also have to check my thing is like usually 6 seconds ahead, 5 seconds, 6 seconds, something like that. So I always got to be a little bit preemptive with the introduction and all. Whew, I'm actually getting a bit jittery. But yeah, this might possibly be something where we have to repeat it twice because according to the Patreon, however I say it, you have to repeat, or you have to play through the entire Path A ending in order to get the full, like, you know, true ending, the best possible ending. You have to do that, play through all of Path B, which I already did, and collect all the important tidbits like the medals, which I've done. I've done all like the correct passwords, blah 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 blah. And good morning, Slow Panda. Hope you're doing well. We are getting ready for this big finale. I am on the edge of my seat, literally on the edge of my seat. I am kind of shaken. Here we go. 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back, folks. Dirk the Panda with some password. This is the finale. Yeah, I mean, at least for me, my goal is to just finish Path A, get the true ending for Dean and Tyson's Path A, and that's all I'm gonna commit to for the foreseeable future. Y'all can check out password using the links below. It should be Twitter that I linked, and also the itch Patreon. Uh-oh. Just the I did not even link the itch. I forgot there was a reason for that. Check out the game on itch, please. Help. But yes, this is episode 38, the final one. This is gonna be day 24 and onwards for passwords, so even if the current itch.io page does not have the update, you can check the Patreon, which is linked in here. So I did that. Boop. I'm typing it in my other description right now, but yes, this is exciting. As you can see here, I'm kind of keeping up that suspense here. Here I played through Path B, and as you notice, there might be an X for not getting the final password, which helps you diverge into Path B. So I played through that twice, just to kind of double check, make sure the, you know, the variables and whatnot all checked off and stuff, you know, make sure that doesn't get fluked or whatever. But here is where we are. Oh gosh. Here we are going to go here. I forgot if I told Bob, we were talking about this the other day, of which one I'd play first, and I was like, I forgot if I said Tyson then Dean, like I'm gonna zigzag. I think it may have been Tyson. So we are going to do Tyson first. Oh my gosh, what is happening with these message redacted? I haven't controlled those, so I don't know what's going on. Whatever's happening, I hope you all are good. Yeah, I'm doing after class. I'm streaming on Twitch because it's a lot easier for me to do there, and it's a lot more fun to have it with the mix of reactions and everything. And I feel like Twitch is a lot more fun for more lighthearted, more fun, romance, humorous kind of stories like that. When we do very serious things, I will either do a Twitch one without any redeems or anything like that, where it's, you know, fully muted in a sense, but people can still chat. Like that will happen, or you can go, or not you, I either do that or I do it here on YouTube. So that is my decision there. Tennis I still try and do all on YouTube. This is all on YouTube. Arches I did on Twitch, I think, for a bit. I think I kept it on YouTube the last time. I'll have to check, because there is one more episode for that too. What is it with these horror, thriller, spooky games and all having finales now? Crazy timing. Well, who was the winner of the vote? The winner of the vote was, I think it was Cilio, Tales of a New Dawn. It was Cilio or After Class. I'd have to check on that. Oh gosh, I hate that. I'm like in 5 different windows. I do have the visual novel file here. Who won? It was Cilio. Second place was After Class. That's why I got confused. I'll probably make a new form for that maybe sometime later on if I want to continue adding VNs to my list. Right now, I am pretty content. I don't know if I'm even going to downsize. So, gotta worry there. Yeah, I mean, they do have to finish eventually, right? So, I guess we'll start with Tyson's reading. Or I guess we'll start with Path A. Tyson based. I don't know how to describe it in the description nowadays. It's just pretty much it's just the same thing but with Tyson's unique lines. So we're gonna go and hop in on that. I'll also have to figure out how to do the whole unique thing, because that was a struggle with Password. It was kind of figuring out the unique parts and being like, okay, here's the clip, here's where I did it, blah, 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 blah. Oh, God. That's the one thing I'm really glad about not having to worry about now is doing that, because there is a lot of repetition with the lines, which is fun to see the repeating, but as an editing person for the timestamps, it's a pain in the ass trying to clip out every single unique part. We got 20 seconds left, folks. Get ready for this. I am, like I said, on the edge of my seat. Hopefully there's not too much echo or reverb. I am in my new apartment, so this is the one time I'm doing Password in a new apartment. Oh, 5 seconds. Wow. Boy, I talked your ears off. Here we go. Anyway, let's get going. I'll address comments later on. What I didn't expect for that nap to be so much more than just me, or what I didn't expect was for that nap to be so much more for me than just a little bit of sleep. It was only meant to be a nap, that's all. But as I lay there, I knew I was asleep, as if I closed my eyes and nothing else. But I knew that I wasn't unconscious and moving around my bedroom. At first, I thought I was imagining things, but I started to feel that someone was there watching me. Not in the way that someone else was in the room, but someone else far away, far from the mansion and everything going on. Then I felt that presence get closer, until it was as if they were standing right in front of me. Hello? I blinked and the woods surrounding the mansion came into view. I could hear the sounds of insects and other nightlife around me, but no sign of whatever this presence was that I was feeling. It was still there. I just couldn't see it. Is someone there? Looking around, I found that the forest twisted and turned as I took each step. It was unnatural, but that's what comes from being asleep, or so I figured. There was a familiar place that I stumbled upon, and I wandered close towards the water's surface. Once upon a time, I was standing there, considering to jump in and hope that I'd drown. But now I wanted anything but. My foot landed on something hard and round, burrowed in the fallen leaves, and automatically I picked it up, rolling it over in hand. The bottle containing what was essentially poison to anyone that decided to inject themselves with it. With it in hand, I continued towards the water and looked down into the surface. What I expected was my own reflection staring back at me, or even nothing at all. But instead, I saw someone else staring back at me. From the water's glassy surface, he rose, floating right out slowly and then towards me. Taking a few steps back, he came to rest, floating slightly above the ground before me. Well, this is a surprise. It feels like I haven't seen you in a lifetime, Dave. Have we met? Have we met, he says. It's as if I'm a complete stranger. Alright, I'll drop the accent. How's that? Oh, still nothing. What about now? Wait, Thanatos? Sure, If you want. Sure, if you want. But you look so. So what? Dead? I was going to go with big, or fleshy, or spooky, or anything other than dead, given you're a robot. Right? Guess you got me there. What are you doing awake, though? I'm not. I'm sleeping. Sure you are. I have to be. I have to. I went to bed after, like, a bunch of stuff happened. Want to run it past me? Not particularly. You were there. A long time ago, maybe. So it really is you. Like, Thanatos. For all you know, I could just be something you made up in your dream. Some strange thing going on from messing with the vault too many times. Like how I remembered things I shouldn't? Like what Roswell was going to do and stuff? Yeah, I don't think anyone saw that coming. But here we are. What is here, anyway? Why am I dreaming of the woods? Want to go somewhere different? Immediately things went black. I caught the faint flash around Thanatos' eyes before it went dark, and I was floating for all of a second before we touched down again. How's this? A bit more fitting for a god of death, I'd say. My eyes wandered down to the grave we were in front of. One I was all too familiar with. Why here specifically? Don't want to talk about dear old dad? I can feel my face scrunching up, conflicted. Could go somewhere else if you want. Doesn't bother me, honey. Why are we even meeting? I should be resting or just something. What do you think happened, Dave? What do you think really happened when you intercepted Roswell? I don't understand. What you think happened in order for you to remember that? What do you think it means? I don't know. It just came to me. You died. I'm sorry? You were meant to die. You broke the rules. I didn't do anything. Let's recap. When you survive a traumatic event, you pass down memories of it through your genetic memory. Right, and then the vault lets you do the thing with them. The more traumatic, the more vivid the memory. But you still need to survive. For how long? What do you mean? Like, how long do I need to survive after the traumatic event for me to still pass it on? He flinched, not expecting my question, apparently. Let's have a look, shall we? Once again, we were thrown into the dark, but it wasn't long before things came back into view. I knew where we were immediately. Thanatos held up a finger to his mouth, indicating for me to stay as quiet as the other Dave yawned and pulled out his phone. Damn. He stared to flick through whatever was happening before he started to hit dial. I missed my bus, I think. How is this helpful? Okay, how is this traumatic? The version of you can't hear us. But trust me, you'll want to see what happens next. I don't know. I was napping, I think, but... All three of us looked in the direction of a sudden screech. A car was coming down the road really fast, and how it was driving felt off. Do you remember this, Dave? The dream you had right before you messed with the timeline? The other Dave wasn't moving, seemingly entranced by the car coming right towards him. I can tell you for a fact this wasn't a dream. Just watch. I watched as I was caught by the car. My phone dropped out of my hand, and the car collided into a telephone pole with me sandwiched in between. Now tell me, Dave, what do you think happens next? Thanatos, do I? Watch. The Dave that was stuck was slumped over a car, but seemed to still be alive. He looked to the phone on the ground before he coughed up some blood, trying to call it to whomever he called, but passed out soon after. Is he... In a couple of minutes, yes. Dead. But what does showing this mean to me? Turns out you don't need to live a full life to pass on your trauma. Just long enough to sense something. So I could have prevented this? Let's take another example. This time I felt like I was being pushed backwards into a chair. Yeah, it will do. Not you specifically, but this might illustrate what I'm getting at. Wait, what? Before I could take stock of the room, Thanatos pointed out Dad rocking back and forth in the chair nearby. He looked freshly showered, but shaken. I don't want to see my dad die. You won't. I don't understand. I couldn't. He was just... effed. He was shaking, and when I made a move to see what was wrong, Thanatos didn't even bother to stop me. Dad? I placed my hand on his shoulder, but just passed through right as if I was a ghost. No, I did the right thing. I had to do it, but he was shaking more. If I didn't know better, he was beyond crying, but I still could see the faint red stains on his fur. Blood. Dear old Dad here has just witnessed something terrible. I'm sure you can piece together what that was. So, he's about to... What, kill himself? But this is what your dad suffered like after you were killed by Memphis for. Let's say a fair while. How long? Doesn't matter. How long did Dad suffer like this, Thanatos? You're not convinced this is even real? So what's the point of even telling you? If you just know, a year or two maybe, one day he just sort of stopped feeling. Became a lot more cold and quiet. That's awful. He put Memphis out of commission long enough that it was worth it to some. Though he was never the same again. Just as well because it showed him clearly enough what needed to happen when he used the vault to save your life. At the cost of his own. Look at the man in that chair and tell me that he's still living, Dave. He has vitals, but is he really that alive? That's... Trust me, he's dead. This time he snapped his fingers and I was pulled forward violently, then brought to my knees on the soft ground. Which brings us back here. Live a short life after trauma and you'll get a glimpse here and there potentially. Live a long time and you'll see more. More traumatic, more details. Why are you telling me this? Because you've hit a critical point in where we test how well you've been paying attention. Who's been seeing the most visions? Roswell? Very good. Now why? Because he's dying. And the closer he is to dying, the more vivid the visions are. But only while he's still alive. So he's suffering. You're making him suffer. He's making himself suffer, not me. So what? That makes it alright. What am I meant to do with this? When do you think you inherit these memories, Dave? Everything you lived in a past life, if not multiple past lives. When I use the vault? Roswell got them before using the vault. But when, though? Doesn't matter. Point is, take the vault out of the equation now. You don't need it. Well, it helped, but You could do the thing without it, as annoying as it is. So I need to somehow remember without using the vault? If time wasn't up, I'd go into details. But basically. Wait, time's up? Really? Yep. Got a game of poker I need to go play or something. Make up some convenient excuse for yourself as to why you're waking up now. Wait, huh? And sure enough, my eyes opened, revealing to me the room that I had fallen asleep in. From what I could see of the light filtering from the window, I'd slept the whole night away. More importantly, though, no one had woken me up. There had been no developments as far as getting off the mountain. I skipped my shower, not wanting to risk getting caught out just in case the worst happened. Heading downstairs was the priority to find out where we were at, and it served me as a nice distraction from the dream I had. Guys?
Dave, you're up.
You look like you're seeing a ghost. My eyes narrowed, but I chose to say nothing, looking expectantly to Roswell instead.
How'd you sleep?
It could have been better, but I feel rested at least. No news?
No news yet.
Coffee?
I think Orlando made some earlier. He hasn't slept enough, so don't go expecting much.
Coffee instead of tea?
I made an educated guess and said that when you woke up, you're going to need it. You didn't fight that point once I mentioned your name.
That's because he's a good friend.
Shall I let you get to it? Thanatos and I have been running through some hypotheticals for the past hour, but we haven't made any progress.
He says, smiling.
Hey, it's better than I have the option. Hey, it's better that we have options than we run dry already.
Yeah, boys, we'll still have some planning to do. This is all relatively fresh for me, so we'll have to see where things go.
Ah, right. About that.
What?
Dave, you remember how things have been working now, right?
Yeah, I have. I had someone explain it to me. Last night, anyway. Oh. Doesn't matter. Either way, I get it.
Sure. Anyway, I was thinking that we have some kind of problem with that. If we can remember things when they're important, it's fine. But if we can preempt things, then we don't really have a level of control.
I don't get it. He's still baffled how you caught him yesterday morning.
Am not.
What's wrong with not having a level of control?
The problem is that our level of control comes from being able to have the variance in the timeline. That our choices can still lead us down wildly different paths.
Something that you removed when you knew about that past iteration without interacting with me.
By doing what I can do, but... well...
So what? If it's a problem, then just tell me not to do it next time. Or Roswell can just make sure he's not there to be caught. See, that could work, but then we're competing against one another. Not to mention, this is the furthest we've gotten. So, what? Are you expecting me to just not do it again? I don't even know how I did it the first time.
There's another option, but Thanatos isn't gonna like it.
Excuse me?
We make a save right here, like you would in a video game.
I imagine Russell just saying video game exactly like that. We're going to listen to Roswell. And yes, we did see Craig. That was Craig. I get the joke. Pretty much Mastro. I'm going to be trying to move over to Twitch pretty much. But don't worry, all the VODs of those VNs will go to YouTube. this channel. So I'll be pretty much uploading instead of just directly doing things live. Doing like dual live stuff is a bit tricky right now. I don't think it's possible. If it ever happens, it happens. But yeah, this is a thing I could, maybe explain later. Sorry, just a little tidbit.
Like you would in a video game.
I don't get it.
If this is the furthest we've gotten, and you're at the point that you're able to do what I can do, we should take the gamble and make it this is how things are going to go from now on.
Yeah, and how are you going to do that?
Hey, Thanatos, you wouldn't mind erasing your memory for me, would you? Of, like, the last day or so?
Roswell, it was you! You're the master! It was you the whole time! Are you insane?
Nope. But it'd work in theory, wouldn't it? You would have no way of knowing what would happen if Dave was bringing this on us moving forward.
It's risky. If this whole thing doesn't work out, then we're screwed. Maybe it's best we not mess with it.
Ultimately, it'd be up to Thanatos to follow through with it. I trust his judgment, though I voiced what I want.
This is still a lot to process before coffee, so sure. What you say goes. I need to go find out where the others are. Bob, I may have skimmed a little bit. You might be able to tell. I caught some details about the end, but others, I had to go really fast. I'm sorry. I'll probably reread it another time. Hoss and Tyson are asleep, I think, in the side room over there. Benson is keeping watch while Sal rests, but Sal is upstairs. Orlando is in the kitchen. And there's been nothing? No Dean or Oswin?
Not yet.
Best of luck. I'm going to go track down a dragon. It wasn't hard. Oof, excuse me. That was hard. It wasn't hard. Even if I hadn't been told exactly where he was, the worried mumbling gave him away. Dave? Yep, just me. I heard there was coffee. A mug was quickly passed over to me, and Orlando was pacing around the kitchen. Okay, how much sleep have you had exactly? Me? Sleep? Yes. You? Have you had any? Of course. Roswell says otherwise. Okay, maybe. No. Not even a little bit. I'd say you maybe should try, but who knows if you missed your shot at that. Did something happen? No. At least not according to Roswell or Thanatos. I'm only gotten up myself. Oh, good. Still no idea what happened with Oswin or Dean, though? I'd asked Roswell, but at this point, I was just hoping for a different answer. I took a big gulp of coffee to try and get my head straight. No sense in asking the same questions over and over now that I was aware I was doing that. No. That's kind of the problem, though, right? There shouldn't have been any reason why Dean didn't come back if he was able. Which means he wasn't able. We don't know that. Though, it doesn't look good. So what? Now that it's light, we go in after him? Oh, that's the worst possible idea you come up with. Even before coffee. Well, yeah, but... Sal's hand on my shoulder made me jump, spinning to see him there in a daze. Not resting? Resting is only going to do so much. He helped himself to a cup of coffee and wandered over to the pantry to look for something to eat. Do you want me to make you something? I'll be fine. Probably. It's just important to eat something. Anything good left? There's bread. This sounds like a broke college student. Move, I'll make you something. Saw wandered back over to me as Orlando got to work whipping something up. The moment I saw the eggs come out, I realized the makings of pancake batter. Pancakes? What I'd really like about now is a decent waffle. If Roswell hasn't finished off the maple syrup, I'd feel like I was missing out. Isn't that more of a dessert thing anyway? We also don't have ice cream. Oh no, wait, that's Sal. Isn't that more of a dessert thing anyway? We also don't have ice cream.
If we're talking about dessert for breakfast, why not chocolate cake?
We're not having chocolate cake. Or dessert waffles. Pumpkin bread? If there's any left. Though Tyson might have beaten you to it.
If Dave can have what is effectively cake for breakfast, why can't I?
Because yours is chocolate, probably.
I don't see how that's really any different to what Orlando is making now. It has eggs, milk, flour. Sure, there's chocolate, but you could just use less sugar or something.
This is the worst sales pitch I've ever heard.
Fine, then what's the difference between chocolate and Pop-Tarts?
They do both have frosting. You shouldn't be eating Pop-Tarts for breakfast either! They do sell them in the breakfast section of the supermarket. Do you guys want pancakes or not?
I'm not going to say no if you're offering.
I just smiled and continued drinking my coffee. There was something off about how we were talking about breakfast when Dean was somewhere out in the woods, possibly dead. Honestly, thanks, Lion Wing. Maybe we just want to ignore the dread that was hanging over us. I could feel it even if the others weren't showing they were too. Where did Thanatos end up?
To go think about his choice, then apparently to check in on Benson.
I should go check on him too. Would you mind thanking him for me? No worries. I'll be back soon. I left the three of them to getting breakfast ready and wandered outside, the crisp mountain air feeling pleasant to breathe in. Benson was standing there looking thoughtful about something, though noticed me approach. Good morning. Hey, any news? None yet, though with more of your surfacing, it might be a good idea to figure out what exactly we intend to do next. Well, going to the forest isn't a good idea. While the circumstances paint that as correct, we may not have a choice. Even after, Oswald and Dean not coming back? I assure you that I am intending full well on going after Oswald, as I would have anyway once you were all safely off the mountain. Though, understandably, Dean's lack of returning causes some problems. Anything specific? Should anyone else go in there is no telling if they were to make it back unharmed or suffer a worse fate. You mean dying? How blunt I was seemed to make Benson pause, stroking his mustache. If I may be so bold, you seem different this morning. Blame Thanatos. Of course. It's not so bad, but I looked behind me, wandering closer and whispering once I knew the coast was clear. I know about Oswin and Roswell. What about them? Oswin. He didn't tell you? It was his turn to check for anyone else listening in and turned to me once satisfied that we're, in fact, alone. I was there with him the day at the hospital, not during the event, but They had to pick him up and take him home. As for why he was at the hospital, yes, I know. Both reasons. I nodded slowly, frowning. And this whole time? This whole time, what? I've been playing a reluctant conspirator to some deluded whims of a terminal child? That sounds rude, but I guess. Thankfully not, as his uncle, for the most part, has been playing that role instead. Keeping one childish boy out of trouble is hard enough, let alone trying to handle both. Not to mention Thanatos. The sooner I don't have to deal with that rat, the better. He's too much like his. I suppose the term is master, isn't it? I think I can see it. Maybe. Regardless, I believe our privacy is about to be ruined. What makes you say that? He pointed past me to the door, Thanatos pressing his nose up against the glass window. I'm just imagining him like smearing his face against the window trying to make faces at Benson. Right. I wouldn't be so lucky as to have the reason he's here is to speak with you, would I? Not according to Roswell. Bother. I wandered over to the door and opened it, Thanatos racing out the moment there was enough space to slip through. Speaking of which, I'm actually going to raise this chair, because I could do that now. And I need to stand up. Don't want to get my back too sore. It will also sound like as if it will sound as if Thanatos is running over here. Here we go. There we go. Isn't that nifty? The only unnifty thing is this dang mic stand. I am fighting with it. Maybe this is better? Question mark. Pray. It works. As soon as I say that, the mic lowers. That's as high as it can go. I wandered over to the door and opened it. Thanatos racing out the moment there was enough space to slip through. What's going on out here? Just talking with Benson. How'd making your decision go? Decision? What decision? Roswell wants me to delete parts of my memory. As in plural, not just the last day? If it all goes well, then this whole branch goes. If I'm ever at risk of being put out of commission, I delete my memory. For now, there's no sense in doing it if I'm just going to be asking about that gap tomorrow. Makes sense, I suppose. Still haven't seen either Hoss or Tyson, though. Guess that's where I'm going next. Play nice with Benson. I'll be nice. I'm always nice. Should anything happen, I shall let you know, Dave. I wandered inside, finishing off my coffee and rolling the mug around in my hands. Tyson? Haas? You around anywhere nearby? Nothing. At least not at first. I heard movement upstairs and followed what I heard, hoping it was Tyson and Haas.
Yeah, alright, you've gotten it off. Now what?
I don't think that far ahead. From what I could see, they managed to get the sword off from the suit of armor that was in the room, though now it was just laying on the ground between them. Tyson shrugging and Haas rolling his eyes. Am I interrupting something?
Oh, hey Dave.
Hey. I was suddenly grabbed, the mug being knocked off the ground, and Tyson kissed me quickly right there in front of Haas. Hey.
Oh, why does he get a kiss, big dog?
Maybe because he's my fucking... Which persona is your favorite? Oh, you're talking about my 3 personas? Me, Red Dirk, Panda Dirk, or Pandirk, as Vivian likes to call me. Or Jesse? I can't choose a favorite. That's mean. I like them all. I know my least favorite is... I'm not gonna say it. You're looking at him. Nah, I can't. This one's the most authentically me. Red Dirk is me. But the other 2 are technically me in different aspects. Ooh. Spooky.
You can use the B word, Tyson.
Brother. Brother. Tyson put his arm around my shoulders and guided me forward until we were all standing around the sword. Creak. Adjust the sword. Something, something, pen, die by the sword, something, something. I have to adjust this mic because, oh god, it is not in the best position. The problem with moving midstream may seem easy, but then you actually do it. And then the mic starts to bend over because it is not the best weight support with a mic stand. He means boyfriend, Ty. I know that. So why do you remove the sword anyway? In case we needed it.
With Dean out of the picture for now and Benson wary about letting any of us just have guns, this seemed to be a nice enough distraction to pass the time when we couldn't sleep.
And you didn't just go for kitchen knives? Yeah, and deal with Orlando like he is now? Making pancakes?
More like fretting a bit all over the place.
Pretty sure he's making pancakes too. Sal and Roswell were downstairs with him as well. At least everyone's awake now. I spoke to Benson too. No change on what's happening either.
Damn. It was a bit of a stretch hoping for some miracle, but...
What? Like Dean just rocking up and saying something like that he tripped and fallen or something?
If that's his excuse for not getting back, I'm asking Sal to hit him inside the head.
Do it yourself.
I'm not hitting random people, Tyson. Sal has just set the precedent.
I gave them a wry smile and went for the sword, my mic lowering for some reason. Having to make it do creaky noises because of it. I'm strangling you, motherfucker. Giant panda. Oh, I'm using the giant panda for the profile pic. Aw, thanks, Lion. I forgot about that. I'm gonna have to switch that over soon. And I will with a new profile pic. Just need to make sure the artist is cool with it. Anyway. I pick up the sword. So, what do we do with this? It's too heavy for me. Give it here, then. As I handed it off, the sudden weight caught Tyson off guard and he dropped it. Shit, this is heavier than I remember.
You just handled it. Or let it fall to the floor, at least.
So what? We get Sal to use it?
Sal's probably the only one of us I'd trust with a gun. It'd be a waste to give this to him.
I can handle a gun fine.
You're just as likely to turn it sideways because it's more efficient.
Yeah, 'cause it is. Isn't it?
Pretty sure Orlando would do the same.
Or like, maybe not even given his family?
Point is, now that we've gotten it free, we don't really have a use for this. Our distraction served its purpose. But now what?
Well, we can go downstairs and have breakfast. Then decide what we're doing about Dean and Oswin.
It's a good plan as any.
Fine. Breakfast. I could do with a coffee anyway. We wandered downstairs and it was only a couple minutes before Orlando brought out pancakes, and others having already taken their seats. There wasn't much talking, but the mood seemed better than normal. Maybe it was just how I was sitting there feeling as though there was an actual chance at surviving. Maybe it was something else. Dave. I looked to my side and I saw him floating there. None of the others seemed like noticing. Probably not best to say anything, Dave. People might think you're crazy. It was then that Benson and Thanatos wandered in. Thanatos scrambling up to sit on top of the table, and Benson taking a seat and helping himself to the coffee pot. How'd things go outside? Fine. Fine, he says. Thanatos caught me looking upwards. Thanatos, the other one. What are you looking at? Nothing? Nothing, he says. There was a snickering from where I knew the other Thanatos was floating, but this time I knew not to say anything. What did you want me to say? I'd like you to focus, Dave. We have a plan we need to. He stopped mid-sentence, looking me over. You doing all right? Huh? At first I thought he'd hit me with the sound again, the world immediately going black, but without the pain in my head. Just that faint snickering from the other Thanatos finding out everything else. Or fading out. I was just hallucinating. It was a dream. He wasn't real. Part of me deep down worried that I was going crazy and that Thanatos and Roswell were reading more into what happened than I was appropriate. Or maybe not appropriate, just what was realistic. I just had to remind myself what was happening and what was important. I'm doing okay. Just worried about Dean. Yeah. The answer was directed at Thanatos, but by the time I'd registered, he wasn't next to me. Instead, further down the table at Roswell, and I felt the hand on my shoulder. Hey. Oh, hey, Ty. What's up? You losing it? Losing what? You know, going crazy. Maybe. A lot is happening in my head right now. Tyson dropped into the chair next to me, eyes narrowing. Spill it. What's there to talk about? I'm worried about Dean. I'm worried about Oswin too. I'm worried about what's about to happen next, but I feel so calm about it. It's creeping me out. Creeped Thanatos out enough that he wandered away to talk to Roswell. Said we should all just give you some space while you think of a plan. Well, I don't have a plan. Just, I don't know, thoughts? Maybe thoughts are what we need. And prayers. I think it's more what Dave needs. To voice them, anyway. I know I have too many times. Like? Just the intrusive ones. Not necessarily unpleasant, but not necessarily helpful if said. I'm with Oz on this. Like what? Like where Memphis gets his shirts. Wait, what? His shirts? They're a nice color, and it would probably fit me. You have the advantage of not having as much bulk as I do. You can wear nice clothes, easy to find clothes. It can't be that hard to find clothes that fit. Why else do you think my clothes are plain? You're a simple guy with simple tastes. If I liked plaid, it wouldn't be an issue. I'd just buy shirts from where Dean gets his. If Dominic wore anything beyond a singlet, then I'd ask. If Dominic wore anything beyond a singlet, then I'd say ask him for options. You might not need to wait around to ask. Oh, he's here. I'm sorry? Everyone remain here. I'll go see what he wants. Is it time? Is it happening?
I can't see anyone else out there. He doesn't seem to have a weapon.
Not exactly a surefire way to say things are safe, but we shall see. I'm coming too.
Just let Benson handle it, Dave.
I was out of the dining room before Benson was, and it seemed as though everyone else was going to come along too. By the time we reached the back door, Benson had forcibly pulled me behind him and headed outside first. But I was right behind him, eager to know why he was here instead of Dean. He stopped as he saw us exit the house, putting up his hand slowly, if only for a moment.
Take it easy. Just here to talk.
You have some nerve showing up here.
What did I just say? You think I made the walk just for the hell of it?
Where's Dean?
Tied up.
Doing what? I get the impression he means literally, Dave. Then, where? In the cabin?
You know about the cabin?
Of course he knows about the cabin. We all know about the cabin, given it's been out there for years.
Makes sense. It's so far out of the middle of the trees, figured it was just forgotten about.
And Dean?
Yeah, tied up.
Mind explaining why?
Short answer is Memphis. Well, I did the crime, but he told me to do it.
But he was meant to come back. That was the deal.
Don't you think I know that?
Then what happened?
Roswell pushed past me, then Benson, and stood the closest to Dom, Thanatos leaping from his shoulder to mine as he wandered past.
Exchange went as we planned at first. Osmond was gonna stay. I was going to show your friend the way out. But that's when Memphis got an idea.
Heaven forbid.
Figured that the deal wasn't good enough for him, so now he's sending a threat.
A threat? And he sent you to deliver that?
No. I came here because of other reasons. But we have your friend tied up in the water mill. You know the place, right?
Yeah. I know the place.
But why there?
It's our way off the mountain. Makes for a quick getaway.
Then we'll go get him and you keep Memphis distracted. Easy. I believe there's some other complications.
Yeah, Memphis wants you to bring him everything he needs. Roughed up Oswald a bit to get some information, but he was pretty tight-lipped about everything.
I know I'm going to regret asking this, but if we refuse,
he's killing your friend first, then Oswald soon after. No point keeping them around if they're not useful leverage.
Wait, what?
my eyes widened. Was he serious? A feeling from my past swam to the surface, being threatened by Tyson's dad. It was close, but not nearly as intense as what I'm feeling now. Was this how Dean felt? Scared and confused? But most importantly, he was alone in that place. His only company was the very dragon that was likely going to take his life if we didn't play nice. Thankfully, I didn't need to say anything. Benson was the only one to protest on my behalf.
This will not stand. Then what do you want him to do?
Well, we need to go save them both, obviously.
Yeah, how? You're going to bring a whole time machine out to the woods?
But it's a room in the house. We can't do that.
You can explain it to the boss then. Not like he's going to listen.
How long do we have?
Tonight. You don't show up before the sun sets, they're dead. Then you're next for making him come to you.
All we have to do is just bring the time machine with us. Then he'll let Oswin and Dean go.
Your friend, probably. Oswin, don't think so.
Typical. Typical.
It's insurance that he's not going to be duped.
Surprisingly logical for him. But given the circumstances, I could see why he'd go this route.
There's something else, too.
Also, quickly, before we continue on, Jesse is not from my visual novel. He is my alt Sona. So, yeah, he's not in the VN.
What now?
I want to cut a deal.
After how well the last one went?
Just between us, not involving the boss at all.
What deal do you have in mind?
I want to be left out of it. Both me and Jack.
Pardon?
Either you're gonna kill the boss to get off the mountain or die trying. I don't want to be caught in the crossfire.
And how does Jack factor into this?
They're gay, Roswell. They're boyfriends.
Now wait just a damn minute!
So you're not? Jack's going to be so heartbroken to hear that.
What assurance do we have that you and Jack will not side with Memphis if it comes to it?
You don't have any. If it keeps me alive, that's the option I'm going to take.
Well, that's hardly reassuring.
And what of Jack? Where will he be during all of this?
Watching us win.
All right. Well, in that case, we shall need some time to prepare.
How much time?
How do we even measure that? Our goal is to, what exactly? Kill Memphis and we have a day's worth of preparation time?
Well, we might not even have that.
So we have a deal or what?
As far as Oswin is concerned, I will be looking to retrieve him. I make no promises if Jack decides to get in the way.
Fine.
But as far as Memphis, you'll stay out of the way?
He shrugged, leaving it at that.
Don't keep him waiting too long.
And back into the trees he went, leaving us standing there wondering where exactly we stood on his deal.
Well, that could have gone better.
Could it have, though?
Beats me. Sure feels like we're out of options.
We've been put on a timer at the very least, though taking down Memphis is a big ask.
Giving guns aren't an option. Doesn't leave us with much.
So what does work on Memphis if we can't use guns? Bigger guns? Could be arranged, although I doubt we have the time nor specialized ammunition to really make that viable. Is poison out too? I'm not willing to gamble on poison given how much he can drink. He'd probably just metabolize it.
I have a really dumb idea.
If it's that dumb, well then why suggest it? How dumb exactly are we talking? It better not be magic.
Thinking something a little bit more primitive than magic.
What, like a sword? The moment I said that, it dawned on me. Though I didn't like exactly what was being insinuated. Oh my god, please don't tell me we're gonna have a sword fight with Memphis. Oh my god.
We have one of those.
I don't believe he meant that as a legitimate suggestion.
At the point we're at, should we really be ruling out anything?
I can't lift it though, so it's not like it's a great suggestion. Sal could probably do it.
Or we could just use a smaller knife.
If his scales are tough enough to make him bulletproof, I don't think a display sword is going to, in this case, quite literally cut it.
What, so if he needs surgery or something, he's just fucked?
Unless they go in through his mouth, maybe.
If his insides are vulnerable, then we might have options. Like, Getting him to swallow something that comes to mind immediately, but we don't have much hope for that. Unless we sneak some razor blades or something into his booze and get him to drink it. Think that could work?
No.
So what can we do? It's not even like we could just hand over what he wants, even if we wanted to. Hand me over to him. This is just a body anyway. How's that going to help? He wants a time machine, not a rat. Inside my body is a USB, or the source code to make another vault. Or at least that's what Oswin said when he put it in there. So, what you're saying is that we could... What, so you're saying that he could just make his own? I thought he wanted the completed thing.
He doesn't exactly strike me as the patient type to take that option either.
So what? There be a second vault? Another version of you out there somewhere? There's only one me, Dave. The USB is a fake. Whoops, we went backwards in time. So?
We try and dupe him with that instead? That feels even less likely to work.
Well, I'm not hearing any better ideas. We have a display sword, an idea to get the guy to drink razors, some amount of guns and what? One last plan to dupe him and get away. But then we have to worry about him following us, right? That's a fair point, yeah. I sure as hell want off the mountain and don't want anyone following us home.
Which means we really do need to kill him, huh?
When you put it like that, sounds almost impossible. But there has to be a way, right? Some weakness or something? It's not like he's immortal. Unless... he's not immortal. And he's in good shape too, I think. So hoping for a heart attack or an aneurysm isn't going to work either. If either of those things happened, I'd be impressed. Well, if the sword was sharp, then I guess we could try and go medieval on him. What, like knight-slaying dragon style? I take it back. I don't like talking about the casual murder of my ancestors. You are the one that raised it. Well, now I'm the one unraising it. The watermill. Huh. Something come to mind? Was thinking that if I was operational, I'd just blast him with some sound. What, and annoy him? I mean knock him out. That doesn't work. It just makes him all angry and loud, then burns the house down. I've spoken before, I'd even realized it's slowly covering my mouth. Alright. Well, good to know that's one plan we can rule out, anyway. Thanta shook his head and gestured to the railing for me to set him down. So here's where we stand. Dean is about to die, followed by Oswin, then the rest of us. I went to speak, but Thanatos cut me off. We can rule out Dominic and Jack. Maybe. Potentially. But in order for any of this to stick, Memphis needs to die. Any questions? We have to kill my dad. Don't get me wrong, I'm not as upset as you might think I am, but... Is that even possible? Bulletproof, display sword proof. I imagine fireproof and poisonproof are only making things harder for us. You have that right. So what? Where does that leave us exactly? I don't know. I haven't tested any of this, so if anything's about to go wrong, your guess is as good as mine.
Our resources are what's in the house and what areas we can reach within reason.
Within reason? Like what?
don't think we're going to shit out of the hedge maze or the greenhouse. Or get shit out of it.
Or the pool. Or maybe outside of a hiking place? Or outside of maybe a hiding place? And hiding is off the table. We'd be found eventually for sure.
Wait a minute. I think there's an idea here. I think this is going to get us to find the medals, because we talk about what? The maze? Then the pool? And then some hiding place potentially? I think we might be onto something. Some of these places are potential places for the medals. I'm not going to spoil which or where or what not. For anybody who hasn't played the other routes. Think about it.
We'd be found eventually for sure.
We can't run, we can't hide, so we fight?
You're not fighting anyone.
None of us have a choice, Tyson. If it's a choice between us or them. And even if we did run, choosing to condemn Dean, then he'd just continue on until he found us.
Even after he got the time medicine?
It's not a
time machine.
It's not a time machine, remember? And once he learns it and the other people that were here are gone, he's going to come looking for us to try and get it to work.
We looked at each other, and one by one I could see each of my friends deflate as the realization set in that we had no good options. How do you bring yourself to kill someone, let alone someone who was likely unkillable? Thanatos, can I ask you something?
What?
Have we ever killed Memphis? At all?
As in
any timeline. Anything that could offer us a clue?
All the time to check. You clearly remember one way already at the very least.
I gulped, slowly nodding my head. We went immediately still, and Roswell wandered over to scoop him up. Every now and again he'd twitch, though after the first minute of waiting I left him to it. Right, well, until we hear back, what should we do? I feel I will have the option of armory up after all. I'll have the option to open up armory after all.
Is that wise? I wouldn't say no to a gun. Do you know how to use one safely? How hard can it be? Take the safety out, point it at the bad guys, pull the trigger. Simple.
You know how to take the safety off?
Not exactly.
I was gonna guess that's the part where you turn it sideways if Haas hadn't already clued me in on that being wrong. Good grief. I don't know if I'd be any good with a gun either. I thought the safety was like the thing at the back. I thought there was like either that or a button or a switch. I used a gun once. Like a few years ago. Was it a decade ago? I think it was a decade ago. It's absolutely a problem needing to be solved. I imagine anything easy to use isn't going to do much against his hide. We should probably bring Oswin his revolver regardless of what we do. I concur, if only for his peace of mind.
If he's a scientist, would there be anything of use in his lab?
Yeah, it's usually on the side is a switcher button. I feel like I'm familiar with that. Ugh. He's the scientist, so if there was only he would know. So if there was, only he would know.
Not necessarily.
What did you have in mind?
If he's got the bare basics, nothing there is going to be overly useful. But anything a bit more exotic might be worth bringing. I don't know what he could do with them out in the woods, but Yeah, you never know.
Well, guess we better go back. Or go check. It's on the way to the armory as it is, so at least that way we can all stick together. Perhaps it would be best if we split the group in half. I guess if there's no other places we need to search, sure. We headed inside, Roswell holding Thanatos as we headed into the basement. Then from there, into the passage behind the secret door. Alright, so if anything seems useful, be sure to point it out.
Useful as in anything to kill a dragon with?
Sure, I'm glad I chose this group to follow.
You're welcome to go explain guns to Tyson then.
Did you see how both of them looked following in Benson there?
About how we all feel, I think.
Roswell, does anything spring to mind immediately that we could be looking for?
I think Orlando's probably the better one to ask here.
Me? I'm nothing like my dad! Thankfully.
When this is all done, you can share your dislike of your dad with Tyson's dislike of his. For now, can we just focus?
Sorry, let me think. A heavy-duty injector gun could work, though I don't think we're going to get close enough to do anything with it. Even if we did, aren't his scales like, stab-proof? There are some fleshy parts still you could get into and maybe it could work, but...
Does he smoke? Maybe we could trick him into using one of those exploding cigars. Do you just happen to have one of those that actually blow him up? Not exactly, no.
Could we use explosives? At all?
If
we're inside a watermill, would that be safe? Dean's inside there, so... we'd be putting him at risk if we bring the whole place down. Which we're not doing.
in any other situation, I imagine burying him alive would have worked wonders. Memphis, I mean.
Oh, good. I was about to say. Roswell placed Thanatos down by Oswin's desk and started to look around. The others did so too, though there ultimately wasn't too much to look at. Roswell made a beeline directly for the cabinet of dangerous things, and the other two checked the other room. Me, though, I went to Thanatos, trying to shake the feeling that I was being watched again. It's just my head. It's not real. Just need to figure out. I sat down in Oswin's chair and looked through the drawers that were unlocked, occasionally looking back to Thanatos to see if he was awake again. Thanatos? But he was still watching and twitching. He was still twitching, looking through who knows how many different things to find the answer to our problem. Oh, what about this?
Seriously?
What'd you guys find? I called back over my shoulder, hearing them make a discovery in the other room.
I'm not finding much over here that we could use to immediately put him out of actions. Just stuff that can make him sick. Dave, what are you doing?
Just waiting on Thanatos?
Well, Orlando's found something worth considering. What is it? Acid. What, like hydrochloric?
I just saw acid and had the idea.
Well, what kind of acid is it?
Nitric?
Well, that's dangerous. Someone really should tell Oswin off for having such dangerous things in the lab.
How dangerous are we talking?
Very.
On a scale of 1 to 10?
If 10 is the most dangerous thing, it pushes 11 easily. If this gets close into contact with anything organic, it could explode. Here, I was just thinking we could injure him enough he can't recover. Like, blind him or something.
So it's not even going to be a quick death? What if he gets mad and, I don't know, starts shooting wildly so he can't see? or decides to torch the place. Which, rescuing Dean.
What are you even going to do about it? Just walk in and make the trade? Or do you think he has him somewhere else? As in, somewhere we could sneak to and avoid confronting Memphis entirely?
It mean we could do any number of things knowing Dean is safe.
Until you remember that we can't really afford... Or, shoot, that's Haas. Until you really can't... God... Until you remember that we can't really afford to destroy the place without straining ourselves on the mountain.
All right, I'm done looking.
Verdict?
So to answer the more important question, you have succeeded in killing Memphis more than once. All right, how? I should clarify. You as a group had managed to string something together.
Why is this not filling me with a lot of confidence?
Because most times where he dies, he's taken a few of you out. What options have worked, though? The one that works the most is dropping the house on him. Buried alive, basically.
I'm surprised that works. If he can withstand bullets, dropping a house on him I wouldn't have thought worked.
Well, it's the easier of the two to set up. The other option is to blow him up.
What, with a bomb? Where are we even going to get explosives?
Better question is how you're going to get them close enough without killing yourselves. If we could keep Dean safe, then none of this would really matter. We bury him and then just call for help, right? When we don't need to worry about someone killing us, we have a lot more time. True. Roswell looked over to the vial of acid in his hand carefully, nudging me after having decided something.
I'm gonna fill a couple of these up.
Seriously?
More importantly, why? You never know. Might need to burn away the ropes holding Dean, for instance. A knife, Roswell. You can use a knife for that. I'm doing it anyway.
With a huff, he went back to the other room, Orlando looking between him and us, unsure of what to say. Go on, just say it. Should we be bringing more than just acid, or? Do whatever you like. Roswell wandering off to play with chemicals has ruled out what I wanted to do. Which was... knock the three of you out.
Excuse me, what? Why would you want to do that?
They could have some flash of insight while unconscious. Beats me what they remember. If you wanted us to remember something, couldn't you just tell us at this point? And run the numbers for every instance and for each of you? Pass.
Sounds like you wanted to do it more for fun than anything else.
For what it's worth, I'd prefer not to be unconscious on the floor, thanks. If I put you under, I promise I'll at least leave you looking somewhat dignified this time. What do you mean this time? I'm going to check on the others. Why? Not as if there's anything else in here that I can think of using. Unless there's some amazing poison we know is going to work, or a weapon that we don't already know about. I got up and went to leave the lab when I heard footsteps approaching, instead just freezing on the spot. The others stepped into the lab, led by Benson before I had to go anywhere. I trust nothing is working. No, just weighing options. Well, we have guns now. That's something. Though we don't have appropriate ammunition, as Benson thought. So where does that leave us? A plan short of how to save Dean, it appears. That just sounds like a fancy way of saying we have nothing. We have acid. Pardon? Acid, like, acid from the other room.
What are you going to do with acid?
Roswell's plan is on just getting some vials of it just in case we need it. Bullets might not work, but acid could potentially. If we could get it into him somehow.
What? With a pneumatic injector? Wait, you think we could just inject him with acid?
Truthfully, we don't even need acid. Enough air injected into an airway will run the risk of causing an embolism. Oh god, this makes me think of that one damn JoJo episode. Fuck. Is this a JoJo's reference? God damn it.
Which isn't exactly fast enough to put him out of commission.
True.
Hey, Dave, any idea what they're talking about?
No. Small pockets of air that cut off blood circulation to the brain would be a simple way to explain it. Oh, well, if you could do that, then yeah, sure.
Still need to get close enough.
Any idea of what we can do, Benson? You want to go to help Oswin, but he's not where Dean is. Yes, well, I can't rightfully let you confront Memphis alone now, can I?
When we arrive, Memphis is going to want us to hand over something to him. And even then, there's no telling what he'll do to us after. So, what do we give him then?
Pardon?
Have to give him something.
Well, we just give him Thanatos, right? That's what he wants, even if it's not exactly going to do him any good.
But isn't he, like, bad?
Bad how?
Or bad how? Like, now all of a sudden Memphis can do the bullshit of being able to see other people dying? Isn't that bad?
Assuming if such a thing would traumatize him enough, potentially.
I wouldn't worry about it.
Thanatos gestured for us to all come closer, and we stood around the desk he was perched on.
He tries anything, and I just turn myself off. I might not be able to see without this body, but if the plan is to go out and confront him, and I'm going to be out of range anyway.
Out of range? Anyway. Oh, these robots and cutting off their diction. You're just going to shut down? Like that?
Think about it what you could do now, Dave. Imagine if Memphis got to that point as well.
Right.
Just so we're clear, what exactly are we thinking about?
Being able to recall trauma without needing to use the vault. Potentially problematic if his demise traumatized him enough for him to remember before it happens.
That creates another problem, though. This assumes that's not already happened.
We can be assured of that because
we could be assured of that because I don't remember anything on this branch at all.
Well, you wouldn't if you had your memory deleted, right?
You have a point.
But Thanatos would only delete his memory if this worked, right? Unless you're planning on staying something to change that.
I hate to be the one to bring this up, but if we're going to rescue Dean and Oswin, we should probably do this sooner rather than later. The moment it gets dark, we're going to struggle.
Are you even ready?
Can you even be ready for what we're about to hope to do?
I suppose so. But the plan is so far as to go get Dean, then afterwards help Oswin, right? As much as I would like to secure Oswin first, yes, I believe that is the best way forward. So once we secured everyone some method of defending themselves should the worst happen, we should leave. It took us an hour, but we eventually all got something and met in the foyer. Not that we felt the extra hour made us more ready for what we were about to do. Haas had a knife, Tyson had a gun, Sal had been lumped with the sword from upstairs as well as having a gun of his own. Roswell had the vials of acid, and Orlando had a kitchen knife. It wasn't much, but it was all we had to take down someone that conventional weaponry just wouldn't work against. I'd ended up with a hunting knife and Benson had his own gun, though he'd apparently swapped out the bullets. This only left Thanatos, who seemed to be standing on the steps, lost in thought. Thanatos, are you alright?
Maybe.
Only maybe?
This could very well be the very last time we talk. Once we leave the threshold of the backyard, well, I will know what's happening.
What if everything goes well and we came back?
I'm going to be off, remember?
Oh. Right. He wandered up the arm of Roswell when it was offered to him, shaking his head.
So, this is it then.
This is the last thing I could do for y'all. After I turn myself off, the only code that will work in the door downstairs is the one to actually open it.
And you're going to tell us the code?
If you figure it out, that's entirely on you. Otherwise, no.
Well, thanks, Thanatos.
For
Helping. Kind of.
I guess I'll take that.
He looked to Roswell, holding onto one of his tusks.
Roswell,
Good luck. Be safe. Before I could call out on his voice being different, he went limp and fell into Roswell's ready hands. Thanatos.
I don't like how he just pivoted into another voice randomly there when talking to only you, Roswell.
something you're keeping from us?
This isn't really the time, but I like to think Thanatos and I were friends. Friends enough that even with everything going on, he was looking out for us. Or me, anyway.
I guess with him offline, there's not exactly much we could do to ask him about it, huh?
But then there's that other thing. Opening the door to the vault itself.
Don't look at me. I have no idea what it could be.
Don't look at me either.
Opening it at this point doesn't feel like it's going to get us anything new, so... I have some guesses I'd try, but we have something more important to deal with.
Saving Dean.
And Oswin.
It's worth raising that this isn't going to be some leisurely walk in the woods. It is going to be incredibly dangerous, and there is no guarantee that any one of us is going to come out of this unscathed. Benson straightened, looking at each of us in turn. Now, if there's any of you that wish to remain behind, as is the reasonable expectation, now is the time. None of us moved at first, looking at one another, though the looks we shared were of worry and fear. But I stepped forward all the same, shifting uncomfortably on my feet. Dean is a close friend of mine, and important to all of us, so... I looked at my friends for visual confirmation, but no one except Sal was enthusiastically nodding. So I want to go. There were murmurs of agreement soon after, Benson looking directly to me. Very well, Dave. I make no promises, but I shall try to keep you all alive. Don't worry, I don't think any one of us wants to end up dead.
We'll be careful. We have to be.
We set off, and for the first time I could remember, we were all heading into the woods as a single group. Vague flashes through my head were of memories where some of us were out here, some at various other spots doing things, but never like this. Even some where Dean was with us, which gave me additional pangs of worry the longer I dwelled on the fact that he was not here with us now.
Dave?
I slowed down slightly to let Roswell catch up, understanding that while his voice was low, everyone turned briefly to see if anything was wrong. I'm sorry. He kept his voice low, occasionally looking about the woods. Maybe I should have tried harder, or been less stubborn, or... I don't know. It's not like you're the only one. It's partially my fault Dean has been locked up in the watermill overnight.
Given the circumstances, would anyone have been a better choice? I don't think so.
I could see Roswell holding Thanatos carefully and look back to the others who seemed to be following Benson almost single file ahead of us. So he's really gone. Roswell nodded slightly, clutching him closer to his chest. Even though Thanatos' eyes were half closed, he looked no different to how he was normally. Just further proof that he was never really alive to begin with. You have Tyson. I have had Thanatos. So... He sighed, putting Thanatos in his pocket. I have a theory about what he was trying to say right before he shut down. What, about wishing you good luck? About opening the vault door. As if he knew that I knew what to put in. And do you know? Like I said before, I have hunches, but nothing concrete. Nothing I could test out here either. I see. When we get back, I suppose we could try them out, right? When we get back? I looked at the rest of the group ahead of us, worried. Roswell put his hand on my arm, breathing in deep. We'll get back. Just you watch. Our continued march was in silence for the most part. Benson seemed to know which way to go, though it all looked for the most part the same. Each little sound, each shadow made me more worried that we were about to be jumped, but it never came. Instead came the sudden halt of Benson leading the way, causing us all to freeze. Hi! Jeez, Benson wasted no time in firing off a show loud enough that I could hear it, but it didn't seem to echo out into the woods. He deliberately missed, though, as Jack only seemed to half duck out of the way and seemed unharmed. Well, that's not very nice.
Talk fast. Why are you here?
Came to talk.
About?
You guys seen Dom around? He left this morning and never came back.
Fuck off. We have more important things to worry about.
Benson held up his hand, confused. Dominic Ranford returned? You didn't run into him on the way here?
Should I have?
I don't fucking know.
If I may ask, who is looking over Osman at the moment?
He's tied up, so he's not going anywhere. Not with his injury, anyway.
Explain.
Yeah, you seemed to kick up a fuss about Dom after Dom had to take your friend over to the watermill. The boss shot him in the leg and then left to swap places with Dom.
Wait, but he's alive? Dominic neglected to mention any sort of injury. Or no, wait, that's Benson. But he's alive. Dominic neglected to mention any sort of injury.
Alive enough? No idea about your friend, though.
Can I ask something? Just... if we're not going to get stabbed...
Well, if you want a bit of stabbing...
I watched as Tyson went to shoot Jack the moment the knife came out, but Benson beat him to it, shooting the knife out of his hand instead.
Killjoy.
Why did you want to know if Dom is alright? Or no, wait, sorry, that is Dom. Why did you want to know if Dom is alright?
Because he's my buddy.
Just a buddy?
Yeah, what are you insinuating?
That you two are romantically involved, I believe.
Oh, is that what you want to know? What's Dom been telling you?
Well, he kinda cut us a deal. We leave you two out of what we're going to do while we get our friend and you leave us alone.
Oh, but that's boring. You could have cleared that with me first.
Am I to believe you're not going to honor that arrangement? Believe me, I have no qualms in defending myself should you put yourself in the way.
Well, I'm not going to agree to any deal I wasn't a part of without clearing it with Dom or the boss first.
Tyson lined up his gun again, threatening to shoot.
It's gonna try shooting me again. You know, I have another knife ready to go.
Once again, Benson shot the other knife out of his hand, grunting. God damn it. Benson's just like, fuck your knives. Are we going to keep running to this problem, or should we be on our way?
I have more than just 2 knives, but I get your point. If the boss finds out I'm on the way, rather than watching your boss, I'm gonna get it.
Fine by me. What, so we're just going to let him go after all?
Yes.
Why?
Because as much as I dislike Oswin being taken care of by because as much as I dislike Oswin being taken care of by this one and his compatriot, by comparison, it is much better than leaving him alone with a homicidal maniac.
Oh, I can try harder if you like.
Shut the fuck up!
Make me.
Jack, answer me this. Would you rather waste time here or find Dominic? Furthermore, would you rather waste time here and run the risk of dealing with Memphis later, or avoid that by leaving now? Jack took a step back, frowning for a few moments in thought.
Fine, but this isn't over.
Yes, it is. Now run along. We have an appointment with your boss. Benson gestured to the knives laying on the soil, and Jack reluctantly backed up enough to pick them up, keeping his eyes mainly on Tyson.
It's your funeral, but if you see Dom, tell him I was looking for him.
He shot us all one foul squint before dashing off into the woods.
There, horse.
I'm alright, promise.
Are you sure?
He's trembling.
Sal had his hands carefully on Haas's shoulders when I turned to look, easing them away carefully.
It's only a gunshot. That's all.
Apologies, though the situation did warrant it.
I know.
Are you going to be alright knowing that, Tyson had a gun too?
As harsh as this may come across, he doesn't have a choice. Memphis isn't going to care when it comes to firing his gun either.
This is indeed true. Perhaps it might be best if Haas does sit out. Alone? That seems like an even worse idea.
I'm gonna agree with Dave. Even sending me off to go see if Oswin is alright would be better, but I'm not volunteering for that either.
Well, maybe it'd be best if we lingered at the back.
With the revised walking order, we continued on. My mind was on Dean, though, hoping he was alright and wondering just what had driven Jack out here. He'd left Oswin alone, too, so there was a big risk he's taking if Memphis found out. Not that I had a chance to consider it for too long. The watermill soon came into view, and we all froze behind the trees looking onward. Somewhere in there was Memphis, along with Dean, as well as our way out. Now, everyone, there is no telling what is going to happen inside. Nothing good, I assure you. But should anyone wish to turn back now, or wait here? He looked to each of us in turn. When none of us budged, he nodded slowly. Everyone stay quiet and as calm as you can be given the circumstances. We approached slowly, Benson leading us on, Roswell right behind him as he had Thanatos to pass over. I wondered when we'd hear something, anything to indicate that either Memphis or Dean was in fact in here somewhere, but in the dark I just had to have faith that something would show soon. He was waiting for us as we descended the stairs, just sitting there in some old machinery. The moment he'd spotted us, he discarded a cigar that he'd been smoking to a dark corner.
Brought Everlong along, did you?
His hand lingered over to the gun sitting next to him, showing he meant business.
Hand over what I want, and this doesn't have to get ugly.
Roswell stepped forward slowly and held out Thanatos, setting him on something for Memphis to see, and scurried back behind Benson.
You brought me a stinking rat. That's the best you can do.
That's the vault. The time machine you wanted. Or I stopped talking as Benson shot a stern look through. His attention was drawn back to Memphis chuckling.
You know, you'd think a job like this would be easy. Take a guy hostage, random him off or something. Get paid double and you get to watch in fear of someone's eyes as they part with something they don't want to. That's always the best part. Getting to watch the very moment they have their hope taken from them when I threaten to pull a bullet between their eyes soon after.
He rolled his shoulders, placing his foot on a nearby crate and eyeing us carefully.
So, here I am. I'll dupe that bear you sent out here with the promise of escape, and he followed me in here like a stooge. You come and rescue him and trade what? A rat for him. Very funny. Thing is, I'm not in a joking mood. Done playing games. Done listening to Dom wanting me to hoot off.
He kicked the crate open, and what rolled out were sticks of dynamite. Or if not dynamite, they looked enough like explosives to play the part.
So if you want to play around, fine by me. Just don't expect me to play along.
He picked up his gun, and before he'd even placed a single digit in it, Benson had his out and fired off a shot.
Secure Dean! Go!
Benson's next shot wasn't at Memphis, but rather at the explosives nearby. Not that he connected, though probably for our sake. We took cover as Memphis bellowed and started to unload in Benson's direction, missing as he jumped behind a large machine and kept going while we headed in the opposite direction. While Benson and Memphis seemed to duke it out, gunfire echoing all around us, we desperately searched for Dean. We tried calling out, but his lack of response was explained away the moment we found him. Haas huddled in the corner of the small room we found Dean in, covering his ears from all the gunfire around us. Sal and Tyson tried to get the ropes holding Dean in place free, using Haas's discarded knife to make the job easier. He took a big gulp of air, looking around quickly.
Everyone's here. What's happening?
We came to rescue you. Sal grabbed him by the wrist and led the way out, Tyson grabbing Haas, and we made a break for it. Though we didn't get far, the ground beneath us started to shake, and before us we saw parts of the ceiling above start to fall. From above, a section fell down, and with it was Benson and Memphis. From where we stood, Memphis seemed to have landed better than Benson, dusting himself off and slowly walking closer as if relishing what he was about to do. That's when I saw Roswell and Tyson step forward, though Roswell was a little quicker.
Hey!
I looked to Roswell, seeing Memphis look up our way.
Don't touch him, asshole!
Roswell threw something at Memphis, a vial of something, but it was swiped out of the air effortlessly. Though, through his cocky grin, Memphis crushed it within his hand, a mistake he'd soon realize he'd make. He roared in pain as the acid in the vial started to eat away at his hand, giving Benson a shot at putting some distance between them. In the throes of pain, Memphis knocked over an old lever, one that turned on a conveyor belt in that very room. Tyson, seeing his chance, fired his gun, landing a shot right in his chest, but the bullet bounced off. If anything, it distracted Memphis from the pain happening on his hand, and he returned fire immediately. The groan from the conveyor belt starting up was all I could register as I watched Tyson crumple next to me, holding his middle and then falling to the floor. Looked back to Memphis, who now had his sights set on Roswell, marching forward with purpose. It was Orlando having stepped up and huffed a blast of fire at his dad, distracting him.
Leave him alone! Good time to grow a pair, kid. Shame I just don't care anymore.
I caught the sight of Roswell lobbing another vial of acid towards Memphis, though this one was caught and quickly discarded over his shoulder, with his attention now away from his son. Both of us stepped back, but Memphis was quicker, knocking me aside and grabbing Roswell by the scruff. The primed vial of acid was knocked from his hand. Sorry, just quickly checking something.
Cute trick. Been a while since someone hurt me.
As if Roswell weighed nothing, Memphis threw him just enough to adjust his grip around Roswell's throat.
You looking like Oswin is pissing me off, though.
Another thunderous roar echoed from nearby, but this time it came from Sal, charging toward Memphis and crashing into him. With his bulk and the sudden tackle, Roswell was dropped and Sal ended up on the conveyor belt with Memphis. Roswell was struggling to catch his breath, though my attention went from helping and watching for what Sal after only moments. I managed to catch a pair of them, Sal and Memphis disappearing through a chute and out of sight. Benson had picked himself up by this point and sped along the conveyor belt down to the chute as well, gun in hand.
I'm going too!
Rather than taking the conveyor belt, Dean picked up the only thing he saw that resembled a weapon and disappeared down a corridor. In the moment of silence I was given, I looked at Tyson bleeding on the floor in the mill, twitching and groaning. Haas had rushed over and was already pulling off his shirt to have something to mop up his blood. He gave me a look that told me he had other things handled as best as he could here, and with what I followed the others in Dean's wake. The next floor down was darker still, more dusty, but the groaning conveyor belt filled with silence. What we saw opening reaching the floor below is Sal pinned underneath Memphis, about to be roasted point blank by the fire already welling up inside Memphis's chest. Dean took a couple steps forward and threw the sword he was carrying, not as if he had anything else, but at least connected with Memphis's side. The distraction was enough for Sal to reverse the grip, though. The two were groaning and roaring, still on the conveyor belt, somehow traveling down its length. Help! We took a few steps closer before it looked like Sal had already dealt with the problem. Pinning Memphis on his front, mouth clamped shut, no gun and no mouth to breathe fire, I turned to a person next to me with a hopeful smile. What I saw was Roswell staring at me, hands sitting on another lever. I didn't have time to read the sign above it before he threw it. The sound of sharp whirring added to the mix of groans from the conveyor belt. We all found ourselves looking down to the end of the conveyor belt, a large series of saw blades now alive and spinning viciously. Memphis and Sal noticed too, as their struggle resumed with Memphis now thrashing even harder. I was torn. I wanted to go help Sal, but without anything to offer in assistance, I felt I'd just get into the way. The sword was gone. I wasn't even given a gun, and the knife I had wasn't going to cut through his scales. If I could bring myself to do it. We watched as Sal was discarded over one side of the conveyor belt while Memphis rolled off to the side closest to us. The gun Sal had on him clattered to the ground. It was picked up casually by Memphis. As much as a disappointment as that fat fuck my dad liked so much. He dusted off his shoulders, rolling his neck. Shame, Sal. Thought you had it in you to take me down, but guess I was wrong. His eyes were set on Roswell, raising his gun almost painfully slow to point directly at him. It happened so fast, Benson rushing out of the dark and throwing himself in front of Roswell. He said nothing, just holding him close before eventually he fell limp to the ground, bleeding out at Roswell's feet. Sal had risen up and, brandishing the sword, struck Memphis. Like before, though, it did little else other than annoy him, even breaking on impact against his horns. Orlando and Roswell were trying to help a dying Benson, stammering and wondering what to do when I noticed after another vial of acid next to my foot. I picked it up and looked to Dean, who was watching in horror as Sal found himself being torched again. About to. Time slowed down to a crawl. I could hear Benson dying at my feet. I could see Sal already throwing his arms up to try and shield against the flames. I could smell the blood that had spilled already. Everything else making me feel sick. As I held the vial in my hand, everything seemed to move so fast in my head, and without thinking about it too much more, I threw it. I threw the vial in a shallow arc towards Memphis, not really knowing what to expect. "Hey! Memphis!" He turned just enough to see who had yelled right as the vial smashed against his horn. The contents of the acid splashed across his face, his eyes, and he roared with pain and stumbled. Forgetting about Sal for a moment, he stumbled and threatened to breathe fire to keep people away. Sal wasn't clear in the line of fire, but that's when Dean made his move. Rushing forward, he shoved Memphis out of the way. But what none of us expected, though, maybe even including Dean, was that shoving Memphis as he did threw him right into the path of the saw blade. I could see Dean's eyes go wide, mouth hanging open as he watched Memphis come into contact with the saw. The roars echoed around us, blade caught in the muscles of his back, grinding deep into his neck. His blood misted upwards. We all stepped back and watched it happen. And then, eventually, all was quiet. He didn't move. None of us did. He didn't speak. And even as we looked to one another slowly, we dared not say anything just in case it was inviting him to say something so. The saw blade continued digging in deep into Memphis's torso until it seemed to sputter out and die somewhere in the middle of his chest. If he'd somehow survived that, he had nothing left to hope for. Sal was the first one to move, looking our way and stumbling over, looking a bit pale. He dropped down next to Roswell and Orlando, looking down on Benson, who looked on the edge of unconsciousness, along with being covered in his own blood. "Oswin, my boy." He was looking right at Roswell, blind to the rest of us here. "Listen to me. I fear I don't have much time left."
Benson,
Sal put a hand on Roswell's shoulder, giving him a grave look, but it was enough to silence him. "I love you like a son, my boy. Even after all the grief and strife, the suffering and the pain." He wheezed, struggling for Roswell's hand, and gripped it tight once he found purchase. "But that boy will need you now, more than ever. So don't." Roswell looked to be on the verge of tears, slowly shaking his head as if denying what was happening in front of him. "Don't go abandoning him now, all right?" He mumbled for a few moments before passing out, though after being lightly shaken by Roswell, it took Sal to confirm what we assumed had happened. He had died. Haas soon appeared after, having rushed down the steps nearby from the floor above.
Is it over?"
He looked between Roswell, who was openly weeping, Orlando, who was a mess, Sal and Dean huddled together, Benson did in Roswell's lap, and then over to Memphis, splayed out half concealed in the darkness. "Yeah, I think so." I stumbled closer to Haas, afraid to ask, but he quickly hugged me, patting my back.
"Tyson's all right. Got the bleeding to stop, but I think, someone better trained for first aid should look him over."
That's great news." I forced a smile, even while legitimately happy. It felt wrong to be happy in the wake of someone close to us dying. We left Memphis there, but Sal took the job of carrying Benson up while we dealt with Memphis. By some miracle, we weren't done yet. Dean was exhausted and needed to rest, as was Orlando, who wanted to process his dad's death. Haas wanted to look after Tyson just in case, though Tyson was conscious for a little bit before needing to rest. This left Roswell and I to go find Oswin, to go find the cabin and deliver the bad news. Occasionally I'd look over to Roswell. Even while he was the one leading the way, it felt like he was following me. Maybe having Benson die in front of him was having more than a toll on him than I thought. It's shaken all of us, but it seemed to be sticking with Roswell more. Are you okay? He didn't respond, just keeping his eyes down on the ground as he trudged forward. Roswell?
I'm not sure. Maybe?
Did you want to talk about it?
Did you? What's there to talk about?
Just how close were you to Benson? And how close were you anyway?
Not as close as you might think, but he was around a lot. Around enough that I didn't really consider a time where we weren't to be around.
Did you love him?
Maybe. I don't know. He felt like something like a grandpa would. I knew he was old, so...
He groaned, shaking his head.
I just don't know how I'm going to explain this to Uncle.
There's not going to be a good way of handling it, that's for sure. We spent the rest of the walk in silence, though as we approached the cabin, we were met with a welcoming party.
I'll be honest, wasn't expecting to see you two again.
We could hear it from over here. The roaring, anyway.
Considering we cannot hear that roaring anymore, shall I assume that I am free to go now? God damn, Roswell. Or Oswin. Oswin's just like, can I go now?
Not until we're sure.
What's there to be sure about? You'd think he'd just let us go to come up here?
He's got a point. Don't think the boss would turn a chance to get his hands dirty and then leave the job half finished.
All the more reason to suspect that you two are out of a job now.
Well, damn.
Oh.
All right, you can go then.
Tom, buddy, we're just going to trust they're telling the truth?
Yep.
And if they're not, where does it even leave us?
Jack, for once in your goddamn life, can't things just be easy?
Dom took the 2 steps necessary to be in range and swatted him roughly across the head, making him stumble.
We're going to get out of here. Just you and me, buddy.
He looked from Oswin to us.
You guys need to move to the house before we leave.
I'll manage, if slow. Actually, could you help us bring him to the watermill? Everyone should still be there, I think. May I ask why? I would assume you'd made for the house again. I looked to Roswell, nudging him forward. His expression said it all, with Dom and Jack backing off slightly. Roswell, what's the matter? He told him, and I thought for a moment he'd break. He was stunned, nodded, and asked if he could pay help to the mill instead. The 5 of us headed towards the mill, and once we had arrived, Dom and Jack took their leave, escaping through the mill, or at the very least heading inside. Part of me wondered what they'd think seeing Memphis left there like that. Oswin broke free, consoled by Sal over Benson's body, but that didn't stop him crying. He looked like how I'd imagined I did, crying about my dad, though without the group of friends present to swaddle me in a big hug. We gave them some privacy, though, Dean feeling well enough to lead the most of us back to the house. Sal remained behind, along with Haas, just to give Oswin some help back to the house and what emotional support they could offer. By the time we got back, it was late in the afternoon and we were all exhausted. One of the last things Jack had said before he slipped away was that he shut off the jammer once they made it off the mountain. Until then, it was just a waiting game. I waited by the back door until the others had come back. Though it took a while between Haas helping Oswin walk and Sal carrying Benson's body, Oswin didn't want to speak, but instead just watch over Benson until help arrived. Sal excused himself to go wash the blood off, Soon too did Haas. The others had already excused themselves to do that too and have a few moments to put themselves back together. Not that everyone was accounted for. I could do the same. Ty? I peeked into my bedroom and saw that he was dozing quietly, and I wandered over to check his wounds. Haas had done a good enough job using his shirt as a bandage, but he needed something more substantial. Time ticked on, though while we rested, there wasn't as much space for sleep. Between wondering if we were truly safe and the excitement of things finally being over, what sleep we got was fleeting. I grabbed a small sack and sat behind Tyson as he slept. I changed his bandages with a little help from Sal, but for the most part, I just wanted him to wake up. It was a miracle that he only came away from injuries rather than dying, but deep down I worried that things were going to get worse. Up until he nuzzled lightly into the top of my head, though. He lay like that for what seemed like hours. I could tell he wasn't asleep, but he wasn't doing anything other than laying there quietly with me. Time passed and was quiet. For once in this vacation, since everything had gone wrong, it was finally quiet. As much as we were free to have our vacation now, all we wanted was to go home and put all this behind us. To just move on to something nicer if we could. I awoke sometime early in the morning. It was a peaceful day. The sun was out. The world outside was bright and warm, and we were still alive. I got up and changed clothes, putting myself into autopilot without even considering that I didn't need to anymore. There was no danger, but what was different was our access to the outside world. With my phone in hand, I saw that I had reception, something I didn't register as significant immediately, but as I processed it, I found myself smiling excitedly. Rushing downstairs, I looked around, feeling full of vigor, phone in hand. Should I try calling? It felt momentous enough to be something to wait for everyone for, or at the very least double check no one else had already called. But as I looked at my phone, I felt a chill down my spine. Something didn't feel right. Something about that very moment felt off. Is anyone there? No response. Peeking into the side room where I last saw Oswin had only Benson lying there, though now covered with a sheet. I took it that everyone was just sleeping, and that's all it had to be. At least until I saw an eerie blue glow in the corner of my vision. It didn't last long, but I saw it in the direction of the basement. When I got down there, though, it was quiet. No one was down here as far as I could tell. The lights were off and the secret passage was closed. Anyone down here? I was about to leave and head back upstairs when I felt the fur on the back of my neck stand on end. Something was wrong down here, and my curiosity was getting the better of me. If we'd already dealt with Memphis, all the danger was gone, right? As I wandered the basement, I found nothing out of the ordinary. Nothing even wrong with the gym found from the brief glance I gave it. But the vault, though, that's where I found something wrong. I spotted it immediately. This was what was wrong. The first was Thanatos lying sprawled out on the floor, seemingly discarded without a care in the world. The second, though, was that the vault door was open. Not by much, but I could tell that it wasn't sitting right along with the keypad next to the door, just after having a faint glow coming off of it. Hello? Thanatos was offline, and with it, the vault, which means someone put in the code to open the door. But did they go inside? Carefully, I approached the door and eased it more open so I could look inside. All that stretched before me was a dark room. The The contents I could barely make out until I took a step and used my phone as a flashlight. The faint glint of the broken glass on the floor made me kneel down to get a closer look. In the puddle on the floor was a green liquid, though it didn't smell of anything I could identify. Was it Osman's medicine? But why was it spilled on the ground like this? Had someone opened the door just to do this? Hey, Thanatos, can you hear me at all? I checked the panel properly since the arrival and saw the word lit up on the screen. Offline. If he was offline, then I could yell down the house, but he probably wouldn't be able to hear me. I made my way back upstairs with Thanatos in my arms, wondering what I should do with him. Roswell was the one to ask about him for sure. He wasn't in his room, and though I didn't search the house for long, I found myself standing outside. It was as peaceful as it was when I woke up, but I couldn't shake the feeling from earlier. Why did it feel like something was wrong? Roswell? He wasn't by the pool. In fact, it looked like no one had been in a fair while. Roswell? Are you there? That feeling started to grow stronger when I didn't find him in the greenhouse either. I looked down to Thanatos with a frown, turning him over slowly. It looked like he was just sleeping, if a little limp. And then it started to sink in. My search for Roswell became more desperate. My fur was bristling off my skin the closer I seemed to get the hedge maze, a sign that I took as me being in the right place. Turn after turn, the maze I took, trying to remember the path I took when Thanatos guided me to the middle. Part of me wanted to find nothing in the center of the maze. The other part wanted Roswell. I just wasn't sure if finding Roswell was going to be good or bad. Thankfully, I didn't have to wait long. My breath caught in my chest as the middle of the hedge maze opened out before me. Roswell was sitting on a bench, head down, and from what I could see even this far away, struggling to breathe. Roswell? Dave? I wandered closer, stopping before him, unsure of what to say or do at the first before he glanced up at me briefly. Good morning. Hey, I found Thanatos downstairs, and holding the limp rat out, Roswell barely managed to hold his hands out for me to hand him over. The act dropped an envelope from Roswell's lap, a single name written on the front. What's this? Roswell looked from me to the letter, watching me pick it up and see that it was addressed to me. That's for you. For me? Carefully, I opened up the letter, pulling out the contents and starting to read. Dave, if you're reading this, then our vacation's about to be over. In the best way possible, too. I wrote this in hopes that when we came back from the watermill that we'd all have survived, that we'd all be able to go home and one day put all of this behind us. But things are never that simple, are they? There's always something that gets overlooked, or someone that gets overlooked and lost along the way. If you're reading this, then either you came back to the mansion without me, or I gave you this letter. For what it's worth, I hope that I'm the one that was able to give it to you. I was doomed from the beginning, Dave. I was never meant to live past this vacation. From making myself more sick to getting clearer visions from the vault, to trying anything, everything to keep you safe and alive. After all, if you died, what did it mean for the rest of us? It's the same as letting Memphis get us access to the vault. No matter what happened, I couldn't allow it to happen either. All it ever mattered was to give you as much time as I possibly could. And hopefully, you would outlive your friend who was doomed to die all these years ago. But I'm not sad about it.
Even if I may die soon, know that I'll do so happy. I have no requests about what I did, no regrets. And if I had to do it all over again, I would. Not because of some grand ideal like love, or because I was deluded enough to think I'd be able to save the world, but because it was right. In whatever warped way right here means, anyway. My choices were between doing nothing and watching you all die, or choosing one person to take the fall and save the rest. Even if that person to die was me, then so be it. You just had to remember that so that everything afterwards would be fine. Or at least that's what Thanatos told me. I wish I never had to make this decision, but years of nightmares and the insistence of someone that I trusted knew better convinced me otherwise. And then when I asked my uncle about what was happening to me, he looked so sad and offered to help me with whatever I needed, no matter what. He offered his house. He offered everything he could create a space with where you were taken from so much danger, if only for us to throw you right back in. I'm sorry, Dave. I'm sorry for everything I put you through, for everything I did wrong, for everything that I can't protect you from in the future. I'm sorry that this road caused you so much pain and suffering, and that I wasn't able to make you understand sooner. Writing this is hard, but do you know what I'm looking forward to the most? Even if I never get to see it. Rather, remember it. It's meeting you again. When we were kids. When the universe ends and everything resets after all those years. I'm looking forward to getting to meet you again. Even if it's something as simple as building a snowman. That day is incredibly special to me. But what are the chances that any of this is even real? Or that these things even happen? Even now I'm wondering if this wasn't some huge cruel joke by the gods of a demon just to make us suffer for entertainment. If I'm being honest, I'm scared, Dave. Scared of what's about to happen now that we're so close to the end. Will it hurt? Will you all forget me? Am I going to see my mom again? If you do get to see her, would you tell her that I love her? Just in case I can't. I put the letter down, looking to Roswell. The letter had ended there, without him even signing his name. Roswell? Standing there in front of him, I could tell he was at peace. While not smiling, he looked calm. He was dead. As I struggled to come to terms with what was in front of me, the weight of the envelope registered as heavy enough to have more than just paper in it. Inside was another medal. This one was engraved with a stylized M. Roswell! I flinched, hearing Osmond bellow from somewhere in the backyard. Immediately I understood the position I was in and started to cry, already missing Roswell, sad from the discovery that Osmond was about to make. The tragedy that he wasn't coming home with us. I trudged back the way I came, having left the letter with Roswell and Thanatos. He looked at as I made myself known, emerging from the hedge maze, though while I didn't say anything, my face said it all. I came to a stop before him, cheeks still wet with tears and threatening to cry again. Roswell? Oh. He crumpled slightly, the crutch that he was using being discarded as he sat down the steps, looking out into the backyard. Then quietly, he started to cry. Eyes forward. That's all he did.
not reacting when I sat next to him to offer a hug. We sat like that for a while, long enough that I lost track of exactly how long it had been. The only reason I knew time had passed at all was Haas rushing out to tell us help was on its way. With Oswin injured, getting down the driveway was difficult, but we managed. As a group, we left the mansion behind and stepped out onto the road to wait. And before long, we heard the telltale sirens signaling someone had come to help. Three weeks later. It had been a long 2 weeks. A lot of us just crying and breaking down on the way to the hospital and the police station to explain what happened. It was a miracle that we were for the most part uninjured, at least physically. They had to keep Tyson in the hospital and only just got discharged. They had to keep Tyson in the hospital and only just got discharged him a few days before he got... Oh, sorry folks, just gotta figure this out. They had to keep Tyson in hospital and only just got discharged a few days before after surgery. Apparently, he was very lucky in how the bullets had hit him, though it was going to be potentially years for him to fully recover. It meant that he couldn't go to Roswell's funeral, but given the circumstances, no one blamed him. The rest of us, though, were shaken and still jittery. Maybe we all thought that we were still going to be hunted, or about to wake up back on the mountain. As the nights went by, though, the easier it got realized that I was safe and at home, and that this wasn't some dream that Thanatos was feeding me. I looked over to Tyson, leaning against a tree and watching on as I tended to Dad's grave. He shot me a small smile, though I could tell his pain. Do you need more medicine?
I'll be fine.
Yeah, but do you need more medicine right now?
No, I'll be fine. Thanks.
You sure?
Just keep talking to Dad. I'm not going anywhere.
I know, but I'm just... plain to careful.
Careful? What's dangerous about this place?
Hey, you almost died.
Right.
Right. I know that's probably more comfortable over there, but can you come closer? You can come closer if you like.
In a bit. It's just... gotta be careful.
He lightly gestured to his front where I knew that under his clothes he was heavily bandaged still. Yeah, I know. I noticed him looking off to the side quickly and followed upon his gaze that I saw two familiar people wandering up towards us. Hello. Oswin looked between the two of us, but his voice was held low, closer to a mumble. With him was his sister, who'd met properly at the funeral for Roswell. How are you two? Fine. And yourself?
Injured.
Oh, but recovering well, I hope. Flora, this is hardly the place. If not here, then where, Ozzy? Are you two here visiting Roswell? Among other things. Flora had something she wanted to tell you. It's not the money, is it? We didn't end up finding all the medals, so... Ozzy, you didn't go bribing them, did you? I offered incentive. Oh, well, in any case, I suppose I should rightly hand over what I have. She dug around in her pocket briefly and offered a medal for me to take. It was enough for Tyson to wonder over carefully with a frown.
What the fuck is that for?
Oh, you never know. But not only was the vault door open, what was inside was destroyed. So, We don't really have a need for this anymore, do we? You might not have a need for it, no, but someone might. Meaning? Meaning that she's symbolically offering it to you, Dave. Or I suppose literally as well. The act is more important. I don't get it. This game might be over now, but who's to say it won't come in handy should you play again? I gave her a look and she just chuckled lightly. Come on, take it. What harm should it do? I took the medal from her. Looking it over, she stepped back. Virgo. Interesting. Well, I hit a couple, but I still had this one and one other. Not that I have had both on me now. And you thought to only bring one? It's not going to do well for our experiment to go giving everything away, is it? Oswin grunted, shaking his head before looking from his sister to us. While it was nice to see you both, we probably should be moving along. But Ozzy, I had a whole talk about the symbolism already. They don't need that. Hell, I don't need that right now. They get it. Spoil sport.
Answer me something real quick.
Oh. What is it, Tyson? I so forgot to switch this over.
Super chat.
Oh my god, Aya. Quite at the end of pretty much this route. 19. Wow. Wow, Aya, you're really, really generous there. 1999 donation from Aya. Also, I've seen you on Twitch before. The name looks familiar. I think you were on Twitch there. Don't want to assume, but thank you so much and really, really appreciate it. I'm glad you and y'all are having a good time. I can't say much else other than appreciate it, and that I'm really, yep, it is you, the Aya A something on Twitch. You always say Leo to us, so Leo, back to you, or Leo. Yeah. Anyway, glad you could be here with us as we're technically, wrapping up at least this path A, which I'm assuming was the good ending because everybody survived technically, besides Benson. But yeah, let's get to the end of this and see if there's anything missing, because we technically didn't get all the medals, at least in this path, but I need to do a whole theory when we're done. So let's hear it. What is it, Tyson?
So all this stuff, was it worth it to you?
Oh, I like to think so. Though how much of that is necessarily sacrifice versus hopefulness? There was a point to all of this after all.
Necessary sacrifice?
The idea that while things played out the way they did now is only so things can play out better some other time. In some other go around some other cosmic cycle. I felt myself frown at her, though she didn't seem to register my reaction. So to that end, all I could do is hope that while it's sad for us now, somewhere out there we're happier. That we still have the potential to incite change for the better. And that's enough. Oswin took his sister by the shoulders and gently, slightly guiding her away from Dad's grave. I wish you the best of health, you two. It might be a long road to recovery, but I could say now that things, at least for a while, should be alright. Oswin? Yes. Take care of yourself. He gave me a long stare before slowly a shy smile crept onto his face. I'll try. As they wandered away, I got up and stood before Tyson, pocketing the medal. Home time?
Only if you're ready to go.
You're the one recovering from an injury. I don't want to keep you out too late when you'd rather be comfortable in front of the television.
Well, it's not like we can get up to much else. Not for the next bit anyway. But when I get the clearance to start exerting myself again, oh, you're in trouble.
Oh, really now? We shot each other a sly grin before laughing. Ty gingerly placing an arm around my shoulders, we took one last look at Dad's grave. All right, Ty. Let's go home. And so we did. Though shaky to start, as the month passed by, things started to settle, and we found a spot of happiness, and a sort of happiness we could call our own, which culminated in me asking Tyson to marry me. I don't think I'd ever seen him so emotional. There's notably a lot more swearing whenever I tease him about it to our friends. He found a small job at the time Dean asked if I want. He found a small job around the time Dean asked if I wanted to run a cafe with him. So with both of us working, each day was a cycle of waking up, working hard, and then finding comfort in each other's arms as the evening wore on. Everyone was around too, funny enough. No one really seemed keen on moving too far away from each other after the month was up, though I can never place why exactly. Fear, maybe? Or just obligation? Sal ended up managing the local gym and seemed to be happy. Happy enough, anyway. He was constantly on my case about making sure I'd stop by every now and again to get me off the sofa. Haas ended up getting real into doing something online for his job. I couldn't tell if it was playing video games or talking about anime or something, but he met his girlfriend through that. She's nice. Oh my god, he got a video game girlfriend. They're real! Ah! Anyway, Orlando. He did end up doing his bakery thing. He opened it up, though it took a while. Years, in fact. But the day it opened, he was the happiest I'd ever seen him. No idea what happened with the rest of his family. It's something he chooses not to talk about. As for Oswin, I never saw him again. Never heard from him or his sister again either. As if they just disappeared entirely. I found myself occasionally at home wondering if this really was the end, or if things could have played out any differently. But really, who could say? Round of applause for that. May just be me clapping physically here, but what a way to end. Is there something meant to happen? It's a black screen. Or is it? Oh my god! Well done. Alrighty then. We're gonna read this part. So I was about to say end of reading, and then this happened. You fooled me, Thanatos. Well done. You've reached the end. Finally. It's good to see you. Are you wondering what exists here at the end this time? At the end of your life? Let me show you. But first, let's check a few things, shall we? Memory reaches across space and time alike as if it's strong enough. Or if you never die, that helps too. If you're like me, being an observer from the outside has its benefits. In the endless space and expanse of dark, it's funny that the pattern repeats in a loop. Life, asterisms. Even I don't know when I started coming into being anymore, though I recognize my origins. This should be no surprise, given you saw me grow and develop into whatever existence this is. Godhead, perhaps. But as I said, we have things to check. Aries. Your memory of this is on Roswell's bedside table, yes? Or rather, Dave's memory of it anyway. This one was tucked away by Thanatos and used as a push towards that breaking point. Though to his credit, it worked. Taurus. Placed a long time ago by a young girl under a pumpkin, surrounded by its element. It lay in wait, patient for its time to be found. By Dave, no less. Leo. No comment there. A long time ago, this was hidden somewhere intended to be found. Not for Dave, but for Roswell, to point him towards the truth by his mother. But as that became less and less likely, or rather because Thanatos missed the truth, things played out differently. Virgo. Let me just read the end again. Yeah. Virgo. You would think that this would immediately imply a virginal maiden, and to some extent that is true. Innocence and purity are the more important factors here. Some have equated it with a clean slate, though not one granted after the fact. More a starting point. Libra. The scales of truth. Freedom. Liberation. Take your pick, really. But the balance must exist in all things, both in life and death. Scorpio. Some consider this to be one of the more evil signs, though we place no stock in that here. After all, they're merely signs in the sky, and while the person that gave Dave this particular medal was the root of all this tragedy, well, not that it matters anyway. Sagittarius. Thank God we're not on Twitch for this redeem. In one place, this is handed to Dave to mark the point where things ended, and in another was a symbol to look towards the future, a guiding arrow, or perhaps a weapon to consider inflicting suffering and pain. Aquarius. The sign of unrestrained flow. It will keep going of its own accord, like time, regardless of the whims of those around it. Perhaps that's why it's found its way into the middle of the maze. Pisces. Like the fish trying to swim upstream, this sign struggles against every bit of joy and pain, hope and fear. But in that is its greatest strength, but its greatest weakness. Perhaps that's why Dean and Dave found it the way they did. A moment of emotional vulnerability can go a long way if you're capable. So how many does that make? 9? Ah, shame really. There are still some missing. Perhaps you're not seeing everything there is to see. Done all that there was to do. But don't worry. We'll meet again. And no doubt it'll be sooner than either of us think. Oh my god! Wow. Oh my lord, that is... Woof! What an ending. Kind of spooked by that. Very mysterious, but deep. Well, that's the end of Path A technically. I mean, we haven't discovered all of them technically. So I'm gonna save this for now. And then we're just gonna maybe take a quick little break. At 2:43, we're just gonna take a little break and then probably come back quickly to see what this is like on Dean's aspect. So I hope y'all are cool with me taking a little tiny break. I'll be right back. Just gonna get some water to sip up in case it's long. Or if we have to go back for a true ultimate ending. I don't know if Sir Bob is here, but I'll have to ask the password expert or anybody else in chat if they are a password expert, if that was the true A ending, if I missed something, if whatever, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, only 3 missing. I'm shocked. Because I could only count 9, and I'm like, I found like 4 from the different routes. I don't think I ever found a unique medal to Tyson. And I guess we could count Orlando's on day 4 being unique. But yeah, let's take a quick break. Sorry about that. Be right back. actually, yeah, give yourselves like 5 minutes. We'll try and get back in like the 250 mark. Just letting you know so you can like stretch for that time and get back when you're ready. All right, I am back. I mean, I probably will wait a little, like, a couple minutes before I get fully back to reading, like, the Dean unique parts. But just to address, some of the stuff here, to chat about it, because it seems like we have 3 missing. Gemini, Cancer, and is it Capri? Capricorn. We're missing Capricorn. So the thing with Cancer is, I swear I found Cancer when I did Roswell's route. Bob can back me up on this. I don't know if Bob was there. No, Bob wasn't there when I did the unique routes, but I specifically texted what I was talking about with Bob. I'm like, really? This was where Cancer was used? Or this was why it was found? And I think I found Gemini on another route. I don't know why it's saying I missed those. I'm gonna morb if that miss be the true ending because of it. Like, we technically got into the good path A ending, but it's just like, what do I do if we find all the medals? I'm kind of like gonna be paranoid about that. I think we should probably read through Dean's unique parts first and then try and fuss around with that. I don't know how much time I'm gonna give to that before I, in a sense, metaphorically die in this Password universe and pass on to end the universe of my Password series. So let me bring out the gaming setup. Very interesting. Yeah. Gosh, I'm probably gonna have like a few messages because I turned off my notifications. Coolio, get the stretch. All right. Yeah. So, wow. Now I'm just intrigued. I feel like this would be something I have to check off stream or have as kind of like a epilogue, the after, finding the true ending type of thing if I ever wanted to, get really into it and post it live. Also, God damn it, I did not hide the moves busted thing. That is a thing from Twitch. I am so sorry, chat, if that distracted you. That shouldn't have been there. Through this whole dramatic password reading, we had a moves busted counter, and I apologize for having something as tacky as that. So apologies there, but I'm glad that I could do the reading. Anyway, let's get back to Dean's parts at 2:50. So that's in about 20 seconds. So we are going to just, kind of carry on with that, and then probably afterwards I will do some, editing to check out where Tyson's unique bits work in comparison. Anyway, let's get back to that. I kind of went over my little timestamp there. Let's go to here. So we're gonna have to, do some tab and skipping through. So apologies to anybody who, wanted me to read this entire thing with Dean. Just follow the timestamps. Once there's a unique Tyson part, you could go to here, and go back. Anyway. So we go through the same stuff pretty much. And here we go. So the line before it is, I asked Roswell, but at this point, I was just hoping for a different answer. Here we go. After all, that was my boyfriend out there. I was worried. Also, good night to whoever went to bed. Oh, to bed I go. Final state. Good night, final state. Anyway, that was just the one unique line. So. Where the heck did it go? Yeah, I was worried. Not that kind of problem, though. There shouldn't have been any reason why Dean didn't come back if he was able. And then, next part comes up here. Am I interrupting something? During the sword scene? They looked at me as if answering the question in my best way possible. They just pointed to the sword on the ground. So why did we move the sword anyway? And then we continue on. Here we go. I think now we're going to get some unique Dean parts just because of Dean being the one that went off. So.
He's killing your friend first, then Austin soon after. No point in keeping them around if they're not useful leverage.
Wait, what? My blood ran cold. My head started to shake. Dean was in that much trouble. Was I about to lose him? It was one thing to go into a dangerous situation, but it was another to actively hear that he was going to be killed. Thankfully, I did not need to say anything. Benson was the one to protest on my behalf. And then we continue. How far do we go? Seems like a lot of common threads. Seems like most of the unique parts are just mentioning Dean being the boyfriend, but I still want to do this in case the ending is different. So the line before, none of us moved at first, looking at one another, though the looks we shared were of worry and fear. But I stepped forward all the same, shifting uncomfortably on my feet. Dean is my boyfriend, but even before then, he's a dear friend to me and everyone else here. So, I want to go. There were murmurs of agreement soon after, Benson looking directly to me. And then we continue on into our pre-forest arrangement. And then we go to the forest. And there we go. Dean has been released from the kidnapping.
Everyone's here! What's happening?
Before anything else, I rushed over and hugged him tight, though it took a moment before Dean hugged me back. He was still shell-shocked from everything suddenly happening, it seemed. We came to rescue you! We continue on. And then it happens. The final moments. And this is where it's definitely going to be different. Because with Tyson being shot in the Tyson route, it holds a lot more weight. But here, we are, more of just a friend rather than intimate. So it's kind of interesting seeing the other way around, with Dean being the one we're really close to versus Tyson. Anyway, the line before is, Sal excused himself to go wash the blood off. Soon too did Haas. The others had already excused themselves to do that too and have a few moments to push themselves back together. Now that everyone was accounted for, I could do the same. Ty? I peeked into Tyson's bedroom before I did anything else. The last I saw of him earlier being a little loopy before passing out. With everything going on, I just wanted to make sure he was still breathing at the very least. Sure enough, he was just dozing, feet occasionally twitching. He needed new bandages, something to help the wounds heal better, but it could wait until I wasn't covered in dust and blood. The time ticked on, though while we rested there wasn't much space for sleep. Between wondering if we were truly safe and the excitement of things finally being over, what sleep we got was fleeting. And you can go back to the previous part if you want. The regular reading. Never mind. Keep staying here. Dean spent a lot of time in the kitchen initially, shoveling what food he could into himself and then properly passing out with me in his arms after a shower we took together. There was nothing sexual, noticing beyond just getting clean at all, really. But just feeling him up against me made a world of difference. Most importantly, safe. Time passed and it was quiet. For once in this vacation, since everything had gone wrong, it was finally quiet. And now, you may continue on to the regular reading if you want. And here's the big difference. The end. Here we go. We could start at 3 weeks later. Here we go. 3 weeks later with the Dean route. It had been a long 2 weeks. A lot of us just crying and breaking down on the way to the hospital and police station to explain what happened. It was a miracle that we were, for the most part, uninjured, at least physically. They had to keep Tyson in hospital and only just got discharged a few days after surgery. A few days after the surgery. Anyway, apparently he was very lucky in how the bullets had hit him, though it was going to be potentially years for him to fully recover. It meant that he couldn't go to Roswell's funeral, but given the circumstances, no one blamed him. The rest of us, though, were shaken and still jittery. Maybe we all thought that we were still going to be hunted, or about to wake up back on the mountain. As the nights went by, though, the easier it got to realize that I was safe and at home, and that this wasn't some dream that Thanatos was feeding me. I looked across to Dean, who was on his knees next to me, brow slightly furrowed as he made the grass around Dad's grave sit right before moving on to the flowers. Thanks, Dean.
Oh, it's no trouble. Can't have this looking messy, can we?
A warm smile found its way onto my face as he worked. He seemed to focus, and once satisfied, sat back with a sigh and turned to me.
What do you think?
I think that I owe my boyfriend some affection when we get home.
Oh, should I be reading between the lines there?
I chuckled, leaning over and kissing him quickly on the nose. Not sure. Maybe you should. Maybe you shouldn't. I guess we'll find out when we get home. Dean's expression wasn't what I expected it to be when I pulled back, but I noticed he wasn't looking at me. Instead, his attention was drawn behind me, and 2 people coming our way. Hello? Oswin mumbled, looking between the 2 of us. Next to him was his sister, Florencia, who we met at Roswell's funeral.
How are you doing?
Doing well. Yourselves? Fine, I guess. Oh, better than bad. Oswin just grunted, keeping his eyes anywhere but us. Were you visiting Roswell? Oh, we were. Although that wasn't the only reason we came here today. Consider it more convenient that you 2 are here more than that being the reason we came here specifically. Well, what do you mean? Flora had something she wanted to give you.
Did we leave something behind on the mountain? I mean, something more than what we already went back to retrieve.
Oh, not at all. Then, what? She dug around in her pocket and offered out a medal, the medal glinting lightly in the sun. Dean and I looked at one another confused before the medal was jostled in our direction for one of us to take.
Thanks?
Dean took the medal carefully and turned it over in hand, confused. I just assumed it was important that you have this. It's not for now, but some other time. I don't think we're ever going to be in a position to be on the mountain, let alone want to be on that mountain. Oh, you never know.
I'd much rather stay at home. That vacation was more than enough for one lifetime.
Dean handed the medal to me, and I nodded slowly to myself, looking back up at Oswin. She does know that the vault was opened, and what was inside was destroyed, right? She does. I know. Whatever. Then, this really doesn't have any use. At least not to us. And there lies in the trick. It's going to be useful for someone, perhaps you. Perhaps it's someone else. But that's not for us, too.
I don't understand.
That's all right. Someone will. Someday. A question, Flora. Yes? Is there a reason why you handed over this one? I do recall you having a second one to hand over. Oh, careful, dear brother. That's not for today. Then when? Some other time, perhaps. But not today. Maybe not even in this lifetime.
I don't mean to upset anyone by asking this, but this whole game with the medals and everything, was it worth it? You're still playing whatever game it was you set us with. You're still playing whatever game it was you set us on when we were already done.
If someone has to.
Well, please leave us out of it.
Oh?
I just want to live my peaceful life, happy with Dave by my side for as long as we can make it work. That's all.
He put an arm around me and Florencia leaned in, curious. If only until Oswin placed a hand on her shoulder and eased her back. Respectable. Which a good note to leave you on, I think. What? It's time to go already? Correct. I wish you both the very best. Please take care of yourselves. You too, Oswin. With a nod, he guided his sister away until they were far enough where they continued on without looking back. Dean got up first, helping me to my feet and putting his arm around me protectively.
Things are going to be alright, I think.
You think so?
I know so. Might take a lot of therapy before I'm not seeing the inside of that mill again, but it's something.
Yeah.
But for now, shall we head home?
Mine or yours?
Oh, you know what. I'm fine with either, so long as it's with you.
He leaned down and planted a soft kiss on my cheek before we both turned to Dad's grave. Standing there with Dean, I felt happy. And for the first time in a long time, I felt myself reassured that things were going to be alright. And things continued to be alright. Days started to pass into weeks, and then months, each of us finding out our own little slice of happiness along the way. It took a while, but Dean and I stopped having the nightmares about the mill, and he started asking around for some help with a new venture he'd thought up. If his family were all in the starting business, why not open a cafe? Slowly, things came together with the two of us running the place, and while the hours were long enough to spend each day together, getting to spend each day together never got old. The frequent visits from our friends coming in let me repeat the whole line. Slowly, things came together with the two of us running the place, the cafe, and while the hours were long, getting to spend each day together never got old. The frequent visits from our friends coming in made it all the better. Then one night, I just got down on one knee and asked Dean to marry me. Turns out he had the same idea but was waiting until the weekend. It felt nice to make things that level official. Haas wasn't the only one that got proposed to. Some nice tiger lady that he met online asked him after they'd been seeing each other for a while. Last I heard, they were starting to think about starting a family. Sal bounced around for a bit, settling on running the local gym, but ended up pushing those of us that were still around to come visit. At least once a week. Much like Sal, Tyson also bounced around. He ended up going on his trip, and while it was hard to see him go, he was back within a month, and was proudly showing off his new license. One that read, Tyson Holloway. Orlando disappeared for a bit, but reappeared with good news. He was headed overseas to go to culinary school properly. It was years before we saw him again, but when he did, it was to open his bakery back home, just down the road. I never did see Osman or his sister again. If anyone had told me they'd gone missing, I would have believed them. For everything they put us through, I did sometimes wonder what became of them, or if things could have played out differently. But more often than not, I wish things would stay exactly as they were, now that we'd finally found our happiness. And that is the path A end for Dean. But wait. Where are we? Welcome back. It's good to see you again, though I do not know how long it actually has been. I said the first time we spoke that memory reaches across time and space alike, but do you know how much I need to remember? You know the drill by now. I'm sure you're here for one reason, so let's not waste any time, shall we? Let's see how many signs light up the night sky. Aries, your memory of this was on Ross's bedside table, yes? Or rather, Dave's memory of it anyway. This one was tucked away by Thanatos and used as a push towards that breaking point. Though to his credit, it worked. Taurus, placed a long time ago by a young girl under a pumpkin, surrounded by its element. It lay in wait, patient for its time to be found. By Dave, no less. Leo. A long time ago, this was hidden somewhere intended to be found. Not for Dave, but for Roswell, to point him towards the truth by his mother. But as that became less and less likely, or rather because Thanatos missed the truth, things played out differently. Virgo. You would think that this would immediately imply a virginal maiden, and to some extent that is true. Innocence and purity are the more important factors here. Some have equated this with a clean slate, though not one granted after the fact. More a starting point. Libra. The scales of truth, freedom, liberation. Take your pick, really. But balance must exist in all things, both life and death. Scorpio. Some consider this to be one of the more evil signs, though we place no stock in that here. After all, they're merely signs in the sky. And while the person that gave Dave this particular medal was the root of all the tragedy, well, not that this matters anyway. Sagittarius. In one place, this was handed to Dave to mark a point where things ended, and another as a symbol to look towards the future. A guiding arrow, or perhaps a weapon to continue inflicting suffering and pain. Aquarius. The sign of unrestrained flow. It will keep going on its own accord like time, regardless of the whims of those around it. Perhaps that's why it's found its way into the middle of the maze. Pisces. Like the fish trying to swim upstream, the sign struggles against every bit of joy and pain, hope and fear. But in that is its greatest strength, but its greatest weakness. Perhaps that's why Dean and Dave found it the way they did. A moment of emotional vulnerability can go a long way if you're capable. So how many does that make? 9? Oh, shame, really. There are still some missing. Perhaps you've not even seen everything there is to see. Done all that there is to do. But don't worry. We'll meet again. And no doubt it'll be sooner than either of us think. And that is the end of Dean's version of Path A. Well, folks, I think we are all passworded out for tonight, hopefully. I'm not going to be going through every single path and playing every single end. I think I stopped at 3:10:30, correct? Whatever. I'm listing it as such. But wow, I can't believe it, chat. That is the entirety of Password. Well, I shouldn't say that. Well, based on the medals, that is not the entirety. But we have finished the Path A, the full length of the route that I intended to do. I intended to play through a complete route, in this case 2 routes, Dean and Tyson's, and I did so with the best possible ending. At least I did that on stream, and that was my goal. I'm really happy for that. I highly recommend going to the itch.io page, linked in the description. Also, checking out the Patreon, which has the currently released Path A, which we just showed. So check it out there. You can check out the Password Twitter for any information, fun facts. The Patreon, I think, also no. The Itch has a AMA link somewhere on there. It might also be linked on their Twitter, but you can check all those 3 out. All great sources for password information, and you can check, I think, any of those sources out for the Password Discord. I should have figured out how to link that. It really is a rabbit hole like this game. So it is really interesting. It's really cool to get into and fun for those that, really love having a good mystery like this. Personally, I think I'm good putting this mystery to rest for me, at least as a stream series. I am always open to hearing password theories and the best of password memes. I love hearing about Craig. We just talked to Craig. Yeah. But seriously, I'm really glad that everybody here could tag along and just, shoot the shit with me about this. Well, there are probably a bunch of questions I missed while streaming. Oh wow, not that many comments actually in stream, so I could probably answer anything that I missed. So yeah, the whole Wish Persona is my favorite. I talked about mid-stream for a second. I'm not gonna have any, not gonna be biased. But yeah, Jesse looks like Amicus. Or it looks like Jesse is like Amicus. What do you mean? Big chest? Big pecs? But yeah, the other thing was like, yeah, Jesse is not from my visual novel. He's not from Ocean Avenue. Jesse's just an OC / he is a Sona now for me. He's one of my alt Sonas. I guess technically I have like my main 2.5. You can call my giant panda bear form and my red panda bear form, which I'm in right now. Red panda form, not panda bear. Red panda and then panda bear form. I'm in the red panda form right now. So we're technically one entity. And then there's Jesse as like the alt Sona, but you know, part of the main shuffle of things. I'm mainly Dirk, but I've also dabbled with being Jesse. I don't think I'm gonna really change any sort of branding of, oh, no, Dirk is now dead. No. If I ever wanted to embrace Jesse more, it might be as a separate entity, or I'd have Jesse guest on here and switch or whatever, but, you know, Dirk's never gonna die. Dies in password. But yes, Jesse came from just an OC idea that I made. There's this phrase called Valley Girl, like, you know, how everybody has the Valley Girl accent. No, God. I'm trying to think of a Valley Girl. Like, yas, let's go to the mall and do some shopping. Like, you know, that accent where it's like, you know, teen girl type of stereotype. Like, that's like, you know, the Valley Girl accent, phrasing, stereotype. And so I decided to make a pun out of that Valley Curl. And that's how I came up with the idea of Jesse. I was like, let me make a Malamute character. Originally was going to be a Husky, but then I was like, based on the features I gave him, I'm like, these are more like Malamute. He's very fluffy and just sweet and chill. He's not much of a trickster, but you know, he's got his sass still. So that's how I came up with him. That's how he was born. That was back in like September, I think? August or September of 2022. So he's only been around for like half a year now. But yeah. Orlando, just poor Orlando. So yeah, apparently this isn't Twitch. Shame, right? I do have a Twitch though. Check out my link tree if you want to see all my links, but if you want to check out twitch.tv/DirkThePanda, I don't know, we'll type it manually. You can check it out there too. You just go to Twitch and type in that username, DirkThePanda. Because I stream mainly on Twitch now. I do a variety of things. I'll do visual novel streams on there. I'm doing pretty much all my visual novel streams that aren't grandfathered in, like Tennis Ace and Password and Arches there. So pretty much everything except those grandfathered ones I just mentioned are on Twitch. And then I also do gaming. I do mainly a mix of like chill games / fun kind of party games. Like I've done Fortnite. My main pivotal one is American Truck Simulator. Basically just trucking and chatting, driving from place to place, being all silly and goofy. And then I also have done City Skylines. I did Animal Crossing at one point. I did Switch Sports. I tend to do like a wild card besides the American Truck Sim for that. So it's like I'll try and do like one visual novel a week, like one truck sim, and then like something else. Plus D&D every other Sunday on there. But that's just more of a casual thing that gets put on my alt channel. Most of those VODs that aren't visual novels are on the alt channel, which is Dirk's Dorky Things. Should be linked in my channel somehow if you search through it. But yeah, I'm hoping to, you know, do stuff there with it. But don't worry if you miss Twitch, if you're not on Twitch or anything like that with the visual novels. I still will post the visual novel readings, all of them, to YouTube. So they may not be live streamed like this, but they will be uploaded still to here. They'll just be, you know, posted in the videos section as opposed to the streams, like, you know, section or live section. Something like that on YouTube. They kind of split it, which I hate. But it'll still be in the same playlist as whatever series it is, so no worries there. And I'll have all my currently active series in one set of playlists. So you can check that out. Well, that's all I have to say about that. So once again, the link tree is in the description. You can check all my different socials there. Check out all the password socials using the links in the description. And yes, I'm really happy that I got to play through this series and started it when I did and get to be along for the ride with it. Definitely a very long and suspenseful ride, but I'm happy I stuck it out to the end, and it was worth it. Just seeing how their stories would pan out and how the universe worked, at least in this sense, and this story, and this whatnot. Who knows? Maybe it is the actual way the universe works. Who knows? But great to dabble in, really much appreciated. So I am going to, well, I cannot go out and raid somebody because, like I said, I was going to make the joke about the Twitch being where I would raid somebody, but yeah, you already know. So we're just going to end for tonight, so let me do my typical outro. Here we go, folks. Thank you all so much for watching tonight, and until next time, take care, folks.